Chapter 1221, Retreating in Defeat. Chapter 1221, Retreating in Defeat. Junior Brother Qian. Another void reversion was enraged and withdrew a Dharmic weapon from his storage bag right away. He raised his gigantic axe with one hand and cleaved down at Tao Yao's head without any mercy. Tao Yao swayed and arrived before the void reversion instantly. It was too fast. At that moment, the void reversion had just raised his gigantic axe and it had yet to land. Tao Yao extended his arm and his seemingly tender palm landed on the person's chest. Snap. That person's chest caved in slightly and at least 8 bones were broken. The void reversion spat out blood and fell. Everyone together. This fiend demon has some skills. Tianjia retracted the contempt in his eyes and shouted with a grim expression. Summoning his destiny Dharmic weapon, a sinister long sword slashed towards Tao Yao. His sword was created from the blood of tens of thousands of demon beasts and was known as the Myriad Beast Blood Sword, a Khanate Dao being Dharmic weapon. A single slash could even conjure the faint phantom of 10,000 beasts. It was incomparably strong. Furthermore, the sword was extremely evil and contained the resentment and malevolent aura of all the beasts. Any cultivator that was careless would be affected mentally. This sword played a huge part in why he was able to become the #1 void reversion in Dragon Tiger sect. At the same time, the remaining 8 Dragon Tiger sect cultivators attacked as well. Some conjured hand seals. Some summoned Dharmic weapons and approached Tao Yao with strange steps, prepared to fight him in close combat and restrain him. Since they were from the same sect, their chemistry was flawless. Tao Yao's expression was unchanged as he scratched his chest. A small sword made of peach blossom wood and was as thin as a needle was revealed. The peach blossom sword was initially hung on his neck. Go! Tao Yao hollered softly. The peach blossom sword fell into the void and expanded instantly, turning 3 feet long. Its body shone with faint lightning as it collided with the Myriad Beast Blood Sword. Humph! Tianjia sneered with a fierce gaze and hollered, "How dare you take out a puny wooden sword to embarrass yourself? Break it!" Countless Dharmic weapons had been destroyed by the Myriad Beast Blood Sword. The peach blossom sword was unassuming and there were no Dharmic patterns on it. Its power must be limited. Even a metal sword made of universal materials might not be able to withstand the sharpness of the Myriad Beast Blood Sword, let alone one made of peach blossom wood. Clang! The Myriad Beast Blood Sword collided against the peach blossom sword. There were no sparks. It was not as Tianjia had imagined either. On the contrary, as though it was severely injured, the phantoms of the demon beasts were dispersed the moment they appeared. Not only that, the malevolent blood chi on the sword was suppressed completely. This? Tianjia was dumbfounded. There was no way he knew that in the legends, peach blossom wood was an immortal wood that could purge ghosts and evil. It was the most effective against ferocious weapons like his. The 2 swords fought. The Myriad Beast Blood Sword was completely disadvantaged. At the same time, many Dharmic arts descended. Tao Yao was calm. With a stern expression, he waved his hands and his fingertips moved, forming pink flowers that looked extremely coquettish. The pink peach blossoms floated up and collided with the Dharmic arts. Although the Dharmic arts of Dragon Tiger sect were terrifying, they were shattered by the peach blossoms and their Dharmic powers dissipated. Piak! Tao Yao's figure flashed and he extended his palm, slapping a void reversion heavily on the cheek. That single slap shattered half of the person's cheek. Bad guy. Tao Yao spat. Bang, bang, bang. His figure flashed consecutively and passed by everyone from Dragon Tiger sect. He attacked decisively and figures were sent flying one after another in a wretched manner. Back then, even Monkey and the others were defeated by Tao Yao. Apart from Night Spirit, Monkey and the others were suppressed by Tao Yao. Dragon Tiger sect specialized in body tempering. Although the physique and bloodline of those void reversions were strong, they were still far inferior compared to Tao Yao. In less than half an hour, 10 void reversions were defeated by Tao Yao. Bones cracked and everyone shrieked repeatedly. If Dao being Tianjia had not noticed that the situation was bad and escaped in time, he would have been suppressed by Tao Yao as well. You're not allowed to shout. Afraid that those cultivators would disturb Su Zimo's seclusion, Tao Yao hollered softly and pointed forward while conjuring hand seals with both hands. Trap. On the peach blossom trees on both sides of the road, many peach blossom branches grew wildly, forming cages that imprisoned the 10 void reversions. Thereafter, A fragrance wafted out from the peach blossoms on the tree branches. The cultivators turned drowsy and the pain on their bodies lessened instantly. All of them became dazed with lost gazes. "I'll lock you bad guys here as a punishment," Tao Yao said seriously. Those void reversions were all paragons of Dragon Tiger sect. Even in the cultivation world of the North region, they were famous figures. But now all of those cultivators looked dispirited. Trapped in cages and hung on peach blossom trees by the road, they looked extremely wretched. Dao being Tianjia had long fled far away and felt relieved when he saw that. It was lucky that he escaped quickly. Otherwise, his outcome would be the same as his fellow sect mates. He would be hung on the peach blossom trees with no choice. "This town is way too evil." His expression was terrible as he mumbled, "I wonder where this peach blossom tree demon came from. To think that he's so strong." After pondering for a moment on the spot, Dao being Tianjia turned to leave. The situation was beyond his capabilities and expectations. Dragon Tiger Sect. "What are you talking about?" The sect master of Dragon Tiger Sect slammed the table and stood up, saying in rage, "The 11 of you were defeated by a void reversion peach blossom tree demon? That peach blossom tree was way too ruthless. We were no match for it at all." Dao being Tianjia felt bitter. The sect master of Dragon Tiger Sect had a cold expression. Pondering for a moment, he grit his teeth and said, "Seems like I've got to get junior brother Fei Ming to make a trip." "A Dharma characteristic Dao Lord?" An elder at the side frowned. "Sect master, aren't you afraid of angering the Mahayana patriarch of Dragon Burial Valley and implicating the sect by asking a Dharma characteristic Dao Lord to deal with Desolate Marshal? What are you afraid of?" The sect master of Dragon Tiger Sect said coldly, "We're not asking junior brother Fei Ming to bring people over to deal with Desolate Marshal, but to kill that peach blossom tree demon first. When the peach blossom tree turns into a demon, it's meant to harm others. As people of the orthodox path, it's only right for us to slay demons. Who can question that?" The sect master of Dragon Tiger Sect had a clear mind. By killing Tao Yao, they would naturally be able to meet Su Zimo and deal with the latter using various means later on. Even so, the elder was about to persuade but was interrupted by the sect master of Dragon Tiger Sect. "Elder, there's no need to say more. I've already decided." The sect master of Dragon Tiger Sect said in a deep voice, "We've got to speed up on this matter. News of their defeat will spread very quickly and things might change if we drag on." True enough. Before long, the upper sects and aristocratic families of the North region as well as Ethereal Peak and the Great Zhou dynasty received the news. Desolate Marshal had already returned to Pingyang town after leaving the Dragon Burial Valley and the situation was unknown. Chapter 1222 Gathering. Chapter 1222, Gathering. Although Su Zimo was a void reversion, his every action would attract the attention of the major sects and factions of the North region. Desolate Marshal is in his twilight years and is already a foot into the coffin. However, he still has many treasures with him. We can't let him take those treasures with him. Once Desolate Marshal dies, his treasures will become ownerless and there will definitely be a bloodbath at that time. Who in the world did not want to become the second Dao being Desolate Marshal? When Su Zimo was strong and powerful, countless cultivators and sects coveted his treasures. Now that he was in his twilight years, countless cultivators and sects in the North region were tempted. I heard that Desolate Marshal has less than 50 years to his lifespan. Could he truly be able to advance to the Dharma characteristic realm? Absolutely impossible. If he cultivates his mind and rein in his desires, he might be able to live out the rest of his 50 years lifespan. If he insists on breaking through to the Dharma characteristic realm, he won't be able to live for more than a year. That's right. How difficult and dangerous is it to want to break through a major cultivation realm? Even at his peak, it's unknown if he can succeed. Furthermore, he's already near the end of his lifespan. Instantly, the cultivation world of the North region was discussing this matter. Dark Ghost Sect. Sect Master, should we head to Pingyang town and fight for Desolate Marshal's belongings? A cultivator asked. Definitely. The sect master of Dark Ghost Sect said in a deep voice, "Junior brother Black Leather, lead 10 Dharma characteristic Dao Lords and 50 void reversions to Pingyang town." Pausing for a moment he continued, "However, if Desolate Marshal isn't dead, don't act rashly." Why? Dao Lord Black Leather was puzzled. A centipede dies but never falls completely. The sect master of Dark Ghost sect said, "Who knows what else Desolate Marshal has up his sleeves? All you have to do is guard the vicinity. If Desolate Marshal dies, there's no need to hesitate and you can snatch his belongings right away." "Understood," Dao Lord Black Leather replied in a deep voice. Almost at the same time, cultivators from Seven Kills sect, Blood Mist sect, Yuan clan and other upper sects and aristocratic families rushed to Pingyang town. Instantly a storm brewed. This small Pingyang town was targeted by countless sects, factions and paragons. Murong aristocratic family. The Murong family head shook his head gently and lamented, to think that a monster incarnate who founded the martial Dao and established such an immortal merit would end up in such a state. Family head, we've received news one after another that many cultivators from the upper sects are rushing over to fight for Desolate Marshal's belongings. Should we? A cultivator asked. No. The Murong family head shook his head. I once promised Desolate Marshal that if he could establish the martial Dao and allow all living beings in the world to cultivate, I'll pay a personal visit to congratulate him. Desolate Marshal is now in his twilight years and there's no longer any purpose in me extending my congratulations. His future outlook is already so grim, we must not hit him when he's down. That's right. An elder of the Murong family nodded. This is the respect that Desolate Marshal deserves. Among the 10 upper sects, Stellar Luna sect, Blaze Columbus Valley and Heaven Motion sect did not make any moves either. The sect masters of the 3 upper sects forbade cultivators from taking part in the matter as well. The capital of Great Zhou. 2 women stood side by side. One was gentle and beautiful while the other was noble and graceful. They were Su Xiaoning and the Empress of Great Zhou Ji Yaoshua. Brother? Xiaoning looked in the direction of Pingyang town with a worried expression. I have to go to Pingyang town and see him for the last time. I'll accompany you. Ji Yaoshua replied. Sister Yaoshua, don't go. Pingyang town is definitely in danger right now. You are the Empress and you must not take the risk, Xiaoning said. Even if it's extremely dangerous, I have to visit Zimo. Ji Yaoshua's tone was calm but extremely resolute. Xiaoning remained silent for a long time and did not continue persuading her. After making some arrangements for the Great Zhou dynasty, Ji Yaoshua set off with Xiaoning to Pingyang town. Ethereal Peak. The old immortal Crane and Yin Qi left the sect right away and rushed to Pingyang town. Wild Lion Ridge. Monkey and the others were gathered together with sorrowful expressions. Little Fox's eyes were red, it was clear that she had just cried. Seriously, first? He's willing to exhaust his lifespan just for that useless martial Dao. The spirit tiger was indignant. The moment she heard that, Little Fox wanted to cry again. Suddenly, Night Spirit said, actually, the situation isn't as bad as you guys think it to be. I heard from First that he has another true body. Even if his Green Lotus true body dies, First isn't dead. For real? Ugh. No matter if it's true or not, let's head to Pingyang town first. I heard that some of the evildoers of the human race are preparing to snatch away First's belongings. Bloody hell. Monkey cursed. Let's go. Monkey's group moved instantly as well. Actually, there was a reason why Su Zimo left the Dragon Burial Valley and did not visit his kin such as Xiaoning and Monkey's group. He was already in a bad condition. The long journey from the Dragon Burial Valley to Pingyang town was already his limit. He did not have the energy to travel around Wild Lion Ridge Ethereal Peak in the capital of Great Zhou. Furthermore, given his current state, there were only 2 possibilities. First, a failed breakthrough. As Night Spirit had said, even if he failed his breakthrough, he still had his dragon true body. More importantly, there was his prime body. He was not dead. He would merely be adding to the sorrows of Xiaoning and the others by bidding them farewell. There was no need for that. The second scenario was a successful breakthrough. That way there was even less need for him to bid farewell to Xiaoning and the others. At that moment, there was already a commotion outside Pingyang town. Pingyang town was still peaceful under Tao Yao's protection. The people in the town were still living their normal lives without being affected. In the courtyard, Su Zimo's breakthrough was at the most critical juncture. Dharma characteristic realm. In truth, it was a sort of conclusion to his past cultivation. The combination of all Dharmic arts was a heaven and earth Dharma characteristic. The reason why heaven and earth Dharma characteristics were so strong was because this Dharma characteristic contained all the comprehension, essence and power of a cultivator's past cultivation. Under normal circumstances, the conclusion process was extremely long and took a lot of mental energy. Some cultivators might not even be able to break through to the Dharma characteristic realm successfully after 500 years, let alone 50. However, Su Zimo's situation was different. He had obtained more than 30 stone statue inheritances in the Dao inheritance ground. Before he deduced the martial Dao, he had already summarized the cultivation of the immortal, Buddhist and Fiend sects and had long mastered them. Without such a conclusion, it would be difficult for him to deduce his martial Dao. Therefore, while this process was the most difficult for outsiders, it posed no challenge to Su Zimo. Although his body and blood qi were already deteriorating, his cultivation realm was rising rapidly and was infinitely close to the Dharma characteristic realm. The deduction of nearly 5,000 years was not wasted after all. The sands of time had long melted the barrier of the Dharma characteristic realm, and all Su Zimo had to do was pass through it with ease. This breakthrough was going to be the easiest for Su Zimo ever since he started cultivating. Chapter 1223 Battle in Front of the Town. Chapter 1223 Battle in Front of the Town. This is Pingyang Town. On a mountain peak 5 kilometers away, there was a dark fog and figures could vaguely be seen. There were more than 100 of them. This town doesn't look like much. I wonder how a monster incarnate like Desolate Marshal was born here. I heard that a peach blossom tree demon with extraordinary strength guarded Pingyang Town. It guarded Desolate Marshal and even beat away Dao being Tianzhe of Dragon Tiger sect. There are a few cages on the peach blossom tree, and those imprisoned within are void reversions of Dragon Tiger sect. Within the black mist were Dao Lord Black Leather and the others of Dark Ghost sect. Right then, Dao Lord Black Leather's expression changed as he looked towards the northwest. A red cloud was surging over with a nauseating stench. The people from Blood Mist sect are here too. He harumphed. Look over there. The cultivators of 7 Kills sect have appeared. This is going to be interesting. Once Desolate Marshal falls, Pingyang Town will definitely turn into rivers of blood. Many cultivators discussed softly. However, neither the cultivators of Dark Ghost sect, Blood Mist sect or 7 Kills sect attempted to barge into Pingyang Town. They were waiting silently. They were waiting for Desolate Marshal to pass away. They could wait, but some people could not. Before long, Dao Lord Fei Ming of Dragon Tiger sect arrived with close to 100 Dharma characteristic Dao Lords around him. They exuded a domineering might and were filled with killing intent. The expressions of Dao Lord Black Leather and the others changed slightly. Dragon Tiger sect is going all out. Given the commotion, most of the Dharma characteristic Dao Lords of Dragon Tiger sect must be here, right? By the looks of it, Dragon Tiger sect is going to barge in. That's for the best. If Dragon Tiger sect kills Desolate Marshal, it'll save us time waiting here. At that time, we can just fight for Desolate Marshal's inheritance directly. Dao Lord Black Leather and the others conversed secretly. True enough. After Dao Lord Fei Ming descended, he looked down at Pingyang Town and waved his hand. With a cold gaze he gave the order, there's a peach blossom tree in Pingyang Town that's evil. Fellow Taoists, kill it. Bad guy. Within Pingyang Town, Tao Yao appeared and hollered at Dao Lord Fei Ming and the others. He had never been so angry before. Even if fiend demons and cultivators had tried to disturb Pingyang Town in the past, all he did was chase them away. However, at that moment Tao Yao was truly enraged. Why? His young master was already in his twilight years and did not have many years to live. Why were these bad guys so aggressive and ruthless? He was kind-hearted and could not understand. It's just a void reversion peach blossom tree. Let's see what you can do. A Dharma characteristic Dao Lord of Dragon Tiger sect sneered and strode forward. Gripping his fist, he punched towards Tao Yao. Ah! Tao Yao shrieked and his blood qi burst forth. In fact, the sound of tsunamis could be heard coming from his body. Tsunami blood. Although Tao Yao was at the void reversion realm, his combat strength was unimaginable given the legacy of Dayu. He punched in reverse against the person's fist. Bang! The two fists collided. The Dao Lord of Dragon Tiger sect was shocked and retreated repeatedly. His robes were torn and the skin on his arm was shredded, revealing streaks of blood. Pust! The surrounding cultivators gasped. Dragon Tiger sect specialized in body tempering. A Dao Lord of Dragon Tiger sect fought against a void reversion Dao being in melee combat and actually lost. The combat strength of this peach blossom tree demon was so terrifying. If it was a void reversion earlier on, Tao Yao's punch would have ruptured one of his arms. It's still useless. That's right. Even if the Peach Blossom Tree Demon can defeat a Dharma characteristic Dao Lord, 2 fists are no match for 4 hands. Dragon Tiger Sect has more than 100 Dharma characteristic Dao Lords, and the Peach Blossom Tree won't be able to last long. Dao Lord Black Leather and the others calmed down and shook their heads. In midair, Dao Lord Fei Ming frowned slightly when he saw that before giving the order, everyone joined forces. There's no need to hold back. He could sense that the number of cultivators gathered around Pingyang Town was increasing. There was no guarantee that nothing would happen if things dragged on. Dragon Tiger Clash. 7-star slash. Illumination Cruel Sun. More than 100 Dharma characteristic Dao Lords attacked at the same time, and Dharmic arts descended one after another, covering the skies and causing the world to tremble. Tao Yao felt a strong sense of danger. His legacy was strong and his potential was limitless. However, his cultivation realm was limited at the end of the day, and he still felt immense pressure against the attacks of more than 100 Dharma characteristic Dao Lords. It was almost suffocating. There was no time to think. Instinctively, Tao Yao reverted to his true form. Outside Pingyang Town, a gigantic peach blossom tree soared into the skies with lush leaves. Countless peach blossoms bloomed instantly and released Dharmic powers. Bang, bang, bang. Earth-shaking explosions echoed when the many Dharmic arts collided against the blooming peach blossoms. Tao Yao shuddered. The strength of more than 100 Dharma characteristic Dao Lords was way too strong. Even he could not defend against it. He was already injured the moment they exchanged blows. However, Tao Yao refused to retreat at all. Pingyang Town was behind him. There were cute and kind citizens in Pingyang Town as well as his young master. He could not let those bad guys barge in. Invisible deep underground, thick roots extended and took root, locking onto the spot without retreating at all. Oh, you bad guys. The peach blossom tree shrieked with a hint of sadness. Branches danced and created afterimages in midair, buzzing and whipping towards Dao Lord Fei Ming and the others. Piak, piak, piak. Caught off guard, some Dharma characteristic Dao Lords were struck by the peach blossom tree branches and their clothes tore. Instantly, blood scars appeared on their bodies and their bones were exposed as they were sent flying. Even though Tao Yao was truly enraged, he did not kill anyone. He could only cry out repeatedly, "Bad guys, leave. Don't force me anymore." "Tao Yao, don't worry. We're here." A loud roar rose from the ground. Far away, a golden beam of light descended from the skies, carrying the might of thunder as it smashed into the crowd. The expressions of Dao Lord Fei Ming and the others changed as they dodged. Boom. The golden light descended and the ground quaked. A ravine was formed on the spot. A golden rod stood on the spot. Not far away, a monkey with long fur and bloodshot eyes leaped over. With each step, he would leap dozens of feet away and pound his chest heavily with his fists like hammers, letting out thumping sounds like heavenly drums. Behind the monkey was a fiend demon. It was a ferocious demon tiger. There was a mighty golden lion. There was also Night Spirit that flickered like a phantom. At the same time, the sound of a crane echoed. The old immortal crane of Ethereal Peak had descended. A golden-haired, green-eyed girl stood on the old immortal crane. Her body was filled with golden blood chi and her gaze was burning. Chapter 1224, Appearance of a Mighty Figure. Chapter 1224, Appearance of a Mighty Figure. Desolate Marshal's helpers are here. It's useless. Among them, only the old immortal crane is at the Dharma characteristic realm. The rest are all at the void reversion realm and won't be able to cause much trouble. It's hard to tell. That black-robed young man is extremely terrifying. Before his sentence was finished, Night Spirit's figure flashed in front of a Dao Lord of Dragon Tiger Sect. In a flash, he reached out and grabbed the person's throat. The Dao Lord of Dragon Tiger Sect widened his eyes in shock. He merely felt a shadow flash before him and his throat was crushed by Night Spirit before he could react. His blood chi was draining rapidly. It was not over yet. A terrifying ripping power surged into his mind through the wound on his throat and sliced his essence spirit into two. A Dharma characteristic Dao Lord did not even have the chance to escape with his essence spirit. Moreover, Night Spirit had already vanished. There was no pause in his actions from his appearance to his disappearance. Night Spirit was like a god of killing. On the other side, Monkey released the berserk power of his bloodline and his eyes were bloodshot. His strength increased exponentially and he wielded imminent with both arms, charging into the crowd of more than 100 Dharma characteristic Dao lords and dancing. In his berserk state, Monkey could neither feel pain nor danger. Instantly, the 100-odd Dharma characteristic Dao lords were thrown into chaos. Night Spirit shuttled through the crowd and quickly seized an opportunity to kill another Dharma characteristic Dao lord. He escaped unscathed and disappeared once more. On the side of Night Spirit and Monkey, they could take Dharma characteristic Dao lords head-on and even kill the latter. The Spirit Tiger, Ching Ching, Little Fox and Golden Lion were not like them. However, the four of them had their own trump cards and could deal with some Dharma characteristic Dao lords with all their might. Apart from Night Spirit and Monkey, Nian Qi had also displayed immense combat strength. The power of the God race's bloodline was evident at this moment. Although Nian Qi's God race bloodline was impure, the combat strength she displayed was not inferior to a true God race being. Nian Qi possessed half of the God race's bloodline and was able to carve her own path in the cultivation world. After Monkey and the others arrived, the situation was stabilized swiftly. On the side of Dragon Tiger sect, Dharma characteristic Dao lords were dying one after another. The situation had already reversed. Although the battle outside Pingyang town was earth-shaking and blood splattered everywhere, it was still peaceful within Pingyang town. Before the battle, Tao Yao had already activated the formation of Pingyang town. This formation was left behind by Su Zimo in the past. How dare a group of fiend demons massacre human cultivators in the cultivation world? Right then, a roar exploded in the crowd like thunder. An irresistible pressure descended and enveloped Monkey and the others. The expressions of the cultivators from the various major sects and factions watching from afar changed. It's a conjoint body mighty figure. Dao Lord Black Leather of Dark Ghost sect said sternly. A figure stood above the clouds with his hands behind his back motionlessly. It was as though he had fused into the world and was unshakable. This was an aura that could only be conjured by conjoint body mighty figures. Seems like Dragon Tiger sect has gone all out. Conjoint body mighty figures are all the grand elders of the sect and rarely show themselves. To think that one would be invited out as well. Isn't Dragon Tiger sect afraid of the person at the bottom of the Dragon Burial Valley attacking? No. A cultivator said, the one in the Dragon Burial Valley is a patriarch of the Buddhist monasteries. The cultivator of Dragon Tiger sect isn't doing anything to desolate martial under the guise of slaying demons. What reason would that patriarch of the Buddhist monasteries have to attack? On the battlefield. After the arrival of the mighty figure of Dragon Tiger sect, Monkey and the others slowed down instantly as though a massive mountain crushed on their backs. Even Night Spirit's tracks were forced out by the might of this mighty figure. The gaze of the mighty figure of Dragon Tiger sect landed on Night Spirit instantly, sharp as a blade. He had lived for more than 10,000 years and a single glance was enough to determine the situation. He could tell that Night Spirit was the most troublesome to deal with among the fiend demons. As long as he killed Night Spirit, there was nothing to fear. Bastard, let's see what your true form is. The mighty figure of Dragon Tiger sect had long realized that Night Spirit was not human. Before his sentence was finished, he had already attacked. The mighty figure of Dragon Tiger sect stood on the clouds and looked down at Night Spirit with a sharp gaze. Suddenly he reached out and grabbed Night Spirit through the void. Dharmic powers gathered towards the palm of the mighty figure of Dragon Tiger sect as though they were sucked in by a tremendous suction force. Instantly, a Dharmic power palm that blanketed the skies grabbed towards Night Spirit. That palm sealed almost all of Night Spirit's available space to dodge. Night Spirit narrowed his gaze and raised his fists as well. He charged into the air and punched fiercely against the incoming Dharmic power palm. Boom. The two collided with a loud bang. Night Spirit's body fell to the ground, creating a huge pit. However, he flipped over and stood up quickly without suffering any actual injuries. What? He took a conjoint body mighty figure head-on but he's completely unharmed. What's the background of that beast? The crowd was in an uproar. Most of the time, Night Spirit would make use of stealthy movement techniques to kill in secret. He was merely used to using the simplest and easiest methods to take down his opponents. However, that did not mean that he was weak. Hit. Right then, the mighty figure of Dragon Tiger sect hollered softly. The moment Night Spirit landed on the ground, A thin silver light appeared from the dust beneath his feet and coiled around his body like a spirit snake. Demon-suppressing rope. Furthermore, it was a mighty figure Dharmic weapon. Night Spirit's blood chi surged and released a terrifying power, wanting to break free from the demon-suppressing rope. A bedazzling light shone on the demon-suppressing rope and Dharmic powers surged. The moment Night Spirit forced out a sliver of space, he was constrained by the demon-suppressing rope once again. His legs were completely locked and he could not budge at all. Even Night Spirit could not break free from a mighty figure Dharmic weapon easily. This mighty figure of Dragon Tiger sect had fought countless battles and had many sinister methods. He had long set up a trap on the ground and was waiting for Night Spirit to jump in. Roar! Night Spirit's eyes flashed with coldness as he narrowed his gaze at the mighty figure of Dragon Tiger sect in midair and let out a shuddering roar. The demon-suppressing rope might not be able to truly trap him. If he were to reveal his true form, there was a high chance he could break free from the power of the demon-suppressing rope. However, the only way for him to reveal his true form in front of everyone was if he were to kill all living beings in the vicinity. Otherwise, his life would be in danger. Those races would definitely not let him grow. The mighty figure of Dragon Tiger sect withdrew a long whip from his storage bag and whipped Night Spirit, shouting, "Bastard, how dare you shout at me!" Killing intent surged in Night Spirit's eyes. He had never suffered such humiliation. Night Spirit! Monkey and the others roared as well when they saw that. However, Night Spirit was trapped and their situation changed drastically as well. They were surrounded by the remaining Dharma characteristic Dao Lords and could not escape. Boom. Suddenly, a violent quake broke out in Pingyang town. A terrifying aura surged into the skies, connecting the world. As though they were drawn in by something, the Dharmic powers in the world surged towards Pingyang town, forming a gigantic vortex. Even the auspicious cloud beneath the feet of the mighty figure of Dragon Tiger sect was almost sucked away. Chapter 1225, Entering the Dharma Characteristic Realm. Chapter 1225, Entering the Dharma Characteristic Realm. All the cultivators looked at Pingyang town with widened eyes in disbelief. Could it be? Desolate Marshal broke through? That's impossible. Desolate Marshal is in his twilight years and is on the brink of death. How can he still have the energy to step into the Dharma characteristic realm? The crowd was in an uproar. Even though they were seeing it personally, the cultivators were unwilling to believe it. Their group had mobilized a large force to come and fight for Desolate Marshal's inheritance. If Desolate Marshal broke through and entered the Dharma characteristic realm, his lifespan would increase to 10,000 years and it would mean that he was no longer in danger of dying. If Desolate Marshal was in his peak condition, who would dare lay a hand on his belongings? What was even more terrifying was that there were too few cultivators in the North region who could suppress Desolate Marshal now that he was at the Dharma characteristic realm. The impact on the North region was unimaginable. It did not matter if everyone believed it or not. In the skies of Pingyang town, the gigantic vortex was getting bigger and its color was turning black as though it was dyed with ink. The vortex was extremely domineering and absorbed the Dharmic powers of the world continuously. Not only that, even the Dharmic powers within the bodies of cultivators 5 kilometers away surged and seeped out, wanting to be devoured by the gigantic black vortex. I am possible. Dao Lord Fei Ming of Dragon Tiger sect shook his head repeatedly with a shocked expression. The reason why the 100-odd Dharma characteristic Dao Lords dared to come to Pingyang town was because Desolate Marshal was in his twilight years and his blood chi was weak. If Desolate Marshal was at the Dharma characteristic realm, none of them would be a match for him. What are you panicking for? The conjoint body mighty figure of Dragon Tiger sect hollered. With me guarding this place, it won't matter even if that lad, Desolate Marshal, enters the Dharma characteristic realm. This conjoint body mighty figure of Dragon Tiger sect was a grand elder of the sect. He was in seclusion all year round and had never heard of Desolate Marshal. Elder, you understand. Dao Lord Fei Ming gulped and said in shock, that Desolate Marshal already condensed a heaven and earth Dharma characteristic when he was at the Void Reversion realm. What? The conjoint body mighty figure of Dragon Tiger sect frowned and exclaimed. He had lived for more than 10,000 years and even with his experience, he had never heard of such a situation. Dao Lord Fei Ming continued, furthermore, his heaven and earth Dharma characteristic is 80 feet tall. He could condense an 80 feet tall heaven and earth Dharma characteristic at the Void Reversion realm. Bullshit. The mighty figure of Dragon Tiger sect who was initially skeptical could not help but berate angrily when he heard that. Dao Lord Fei Ming said, "Elder, ever since Desolate Marshal started cultivating, he has never tasted defeat and has many trump cards that can kill opponents above his level. I'm talking about a major cultivation realm difference." The mighty figure of Dragon Tiger sect was even more unconvinced. Enraged, he said coldly, "Why? You mean to say that this lad can kill me the moment he enters the Dharma characteristic realm?" "No, that's not what I meant." Dao Lord Fei Ming explained hurriedly, "I just want you to be careful, Elder. It's nothing much." "Humph." The mighty figure of Dragon Tiger sect sneered and berated, "I'll let you guys know today that the difference between the Dharma characteristic and conjoint body realm is not something you can imagine. Even if that lad can conjure a heaven and earth Dharma characteristic that's 80 feet tall, I'll be able to shatter it with my mere body." Conjoint body was the fusion of the physical body and heaven and earth Dharma characteristic. Upon entering the conjoint body realm, every single action of his contained the power of heaven and earth and the might of the universe. At that moment, the black vortex above Pingyang town was getting larger and larger, as if it was connecting heaven and earth. "Look, what's that?" Some cultivators pointed at the gigantic black vortex with trembling voices. Within the black vortex, a figure could be seen faintly. Initially it was a little blurry, but as time passed, it became increasingly clear. The tall figure was clad in black armor and was shrouded in fiend chi, unexcelled in the world. He wielded a gigantic black scythe that was chilling. "Ah, it's Desolate Marshal's heaven and earth Dharma characteristic." "That's right, this heavenly fiend Dharma body defeated Dao Lord Xianyu." A wave of shock and astonishment could be heard from the crowd. The tall figure remained motionless within the black vortex and his figure rose continuously. 10 feet. 30 feet. 50 feet. 80 feet. Before long, the heavenly fiend Dharma body rose to a height of 80 feet. However, that trend did not stop. Once a heaven and earth Dharma characteristic was 80 feet, every single increase thereafter was exceedingly difficult. But now, in the blink of an eye, the heavenly fiend Dharma body had already climbed to a height of 85 feet. At that moment, the cultivators of Dark Ghost Sect, Seven Kills Sect, Blood Mist Sect, Yuan Clan and other major sects and factions were silent with pale faces. The fact that his heaven and earth Dharma characteristic was 85 feet tall right after he entered the Dharma characteristic realm was unimaginable. Even in the Golden Ancient Era, there was probably no human paragon that could reach such a height. As one's cultivation advanced, their heaven and earth Dharma characteristic would also strengthen. He was already able to condense a heaven and earth Dharma characteristic that was 85 feet tall at the early stage Dharma characteristic realm. If he were to cultivate to the perfected Dharma characteristic realm, there was a high chance that this heaven and earth Dharma characteristic would become a 90 feet tall supreme Dharma characteristic. The expression of the mighty figure of Dragon Tiger sect turned extremely terrible as well. Under normal circumstances, conjoint body mighty figures could indeed suppress Dharma characteristic Dao Lords with ease. However, a Dharma characteristic's heaven and earth Dharma characteristic at this stage could definitely go against a conjoint body mighty figure. In the black vortex, the heavenly fiend Dharma body stood upright with a black scythe in his hands. Two cold beams of light shone from his eyes as he looked down at the world with a torrential aura. In the face of this heaven and earth Dharma characteristic, other Dharma characteristics were insignificant like ants beneath its feet. Even the aura of the mighty figure of Dragon Tiger sect was disadvantaged against the 85 feet tall heavenly fiend Dharma body. All of a sudden, the heavenly fiend Dharma body moved. With that step, it strode right out of Pingyang town. Instantly the ground shook and the weather changed. "Old man die." The heavenly fiend Dharma body let out a shuddering roar. Immediately after, the heavenly fiend Dharma body raised its arm and the scythe drew a perfect black arc in midair, slicing the void into two as it slashed towards the mighty figure of Dragon Tiger sect. Ah! The mighty figure of Dragon Tiger sect did not dare to be careless. He threw away the whip in his hands and took out a steel truncheon from his storage bag, smashing it fiercely towards the black scythe. Boom! The two weapons collided with a loud bang. The mighty figure of Dragon Tiger sect shuddered and a shocked expression appeared on his face. He fell and opened his mouth, spitting out a mouthful of blood. The heavenly fiend Dharma body was one of the strongest Dharma characteristics of the fiend sections. A height of 85 feet was not something an ordinary conjoint body mighty figure of Dragon Tiger sect could defend against. Endless fiend chi coiled towards the mighty figure of Dragon Tiger sect like pitch-black anacondas. In that moment of life and death, the mighty figure of Dragon Tiger sect risked his life and channeled his blood chi with all his might, summoning many talismans and Dharmic weapons to defend against the corrosion of the fiend chi. Without the Dharmic powers of the mighty figure of Dragon Tiger sect supporting it, the demon-suppressing rope could no longer restrain Night Spirit. Nobody noticed that Night Spirit had already vanished, leaving nothing but a pile of broken ropes with a dim glow. Just as the mighty figure of Dragon Tiger sect was trying his best to defend against the attack of the heavenly fiend Dharma body, a phantom-like figure flashed beside him and fused into the pitch-black fiend chi, almost invisible. A palm appeared above the head of the mighty figure of Dragon Tiger sect. The fingers were sharp and pierced his head. Chapter 1226 Change in the North Region. Chapter 1226 Change in the North Region. The mighty figure of Dragon Tiger sect's expression froze and his eyes widened. Night Spirit's claws pierced through his skull and Essence Spirit with ease. A conjoint body mighty figure died on the spot. By the time one cultivated to the conjoint body realm and became a mighty figure, it was extremely difficult for them to die unless their lifespans were expended. That was because the Dharmic powers of conjoint body mighty figures were boundless and they could even regrow severed limbs. Even if their limbs were severed, they would only lose blood chi and regrow rapidly. Such methods were truly earth-shaking. However, Night Spirit was decisive to kill and did not make any unnecessary movements, aiming for his vitals. The crowd was shocked when they saw that. That was a conjoint body mighty figure. In Tianhuang mainland, Mahayana patriarchs were reclusive and conjoint body mighty figures were almost at the peak of the cultivation world and could dominate the world. But now, a conjoint body mighty figure had just died in front of all the cultivators. The entire process merely took a few breaths. The mighty figure of Dragon Tiger sect was defeated by Su Zimo's heavenly fiend Dharma body head-on and was then killed by Night Spirit. He did not even have a second chance to attack. On the side of Dragon Tiger sect, the situation reversed instantly with the death of a conjoint body mighty figure. Monkey Nian Chi Tao Yao and the others were invigorated. As for Dao Lord Fei Ming and the others, they were shocked and wanted to retreat. When Desolate Marshal entered the Dharma characteristic realm, his lifespan would reach 10,000 years. This was equivalent to forcefully extending his lifespan by 5,000 years. Originally he was nearly 5,000 years old and was on the brink of death. But now, for Desolate Marshal who had a lifespan of 10,000 years, he was at his peak. At his peak, even a mighty figure of Dragon Tiger sect could not match him. How could any of those Dharma characteristic Dao Lords be a match for Desolate Marshal? Escape. Some Dharma characteristic Dao Lords reacted extremely quickly and fled into the distance immediately. However, it was already too late for them to escape. Boom. The heavenly fiend Dharma body charged into the crowd with its massive body that no one could match. Some Dharma characteristic Dao Lords could not dodge in time and were shattered by the heavenly fiend Dharma body without any corpse left. Swoosh. The heavenly fiend Dharma body waved its palm that was shrouded by fiend chi and a gigantic vortex appeared in its palm, pulling 6 Dharma characteristic Dao Lords over. The Dharma characteristic Dao Lords were dragged into the black vortex and vanished without a trace, turning into rich essence energy after being refined by the fiend chi. The light in the heavenly fiend Dharma body's eyes shone even brighter after it received the tremendous amount of essence energy. It strode forward and stomped down with its massive feet, crushing a few heaven and earth Dharma characteristics that were 50 to 60 feet tall and causing the ground to tremble. The heaven and earth Dharma characteristic condensed by Dragon Tiger sect was only 60 feet at most. They were completely vulnerable against the 85 feet heavenly fiend Dharma body. The gigantic scythe tore through the void and let out a buzzing sound that was shuddering like the sound of death. A cold and dark light flashed. Poof, poof, poof. 3 gigantic heads flew up and blood gushed out like a fountain in midair. The heads of the 3 Dharma characteristic Dao Lords were still flying in midair when the pitch-black fiend chi invaded their consciousness and killed their essence spirits instantly. The lives of those Dharma characteristic Dao Lords were like grass as they were reaped by the pitch-black scythe repeatedly. Nobody could escape. Figures fell from midair one after another. Blood chi spread and dyed the ground red. Even the skies were stained with blood. Cultivators of Dark Ghost Sect, Seven Kills Sect, Blood Mist Sect, Yuan Clan and many other sects and factions watched this shocking scene with dumbfounded expressions. Everyone vaguely realized something. The North region had changed. Hurry, informed the sect. Dao Lord Black Leather snapped out of his stupor and said hurriedly, something changed. Desolate Martial entered the Dharma characteristic realm and a mighty figure of Dragon Tiger Sect died alongside more than 100 Dao Lords. The cultivators of Seven Kills Sect, Blood Mist Sect and other sects and factions snapped out of their stupor as well and took out their spirit crane messenger from their storage bags. Right then, the group of cultivators suddenly felt their hearts skip a beat and felt chills run down their spines. Not far away, in a pool of blood on the battlefield, the tall heavenly fiend Dharma body had a murderous aura and wielded a bloodied scythe. He was looking over with a cold gaze. The limbs of the cultivators turned cold and they froze on the spot, as though their hearts were about to jump out of their throats. Although the heavenly fiend Dharma body was strong, it was not enough to intimidate them so much that they kept quiet out of fear and did not dare to move. What truly terrified the crowd was the green figure on the heavenly fiend Dharma body. Compared to the indomitable heavenly fiend Dharma body, that figure seemed extremely tiny. However, at that moment, none of the cultivators dared to ignore him. Su Zimo wore green robes and had his hands behind his back. His black hair danced and his skin was smooth without any wrinkles. There was no hint of twilight at all. First, young master. Monkey Nian Chi and the others cheered with delighted expressions. Su Zimo looked at everyone and nodded with a smile. Thereafter, his gaze landed on Dao Lord Black Leather and the other cultivators. The hearts of the cultivators skipped a beat. His gaze was extremely calm but no one dared to meet it. Although they did not fight when they arrived, they had other motives. They wanted Desolate Martial's belongings. It was definitely a taboo for them to covet someone else's possessions before they even died. They would not even get a chance to explain otherwise if Desolate Martial killed all of them here because of that. After a long pause, Su Zimo retracted his gaze. The cultivators felt their hearts lighten and unknowingly, they broke out in cold sweat. Some of the cultivators collapsed onto the ground, panting heavily to compose themselves. Were they off the hook? Go run. Leave this place. Dao Lord Black Leather sent a voice transmission with his spirit consciousness and fled into the distance without turning back. He swore in his heart that he would never step foot onto Pingyang Town again in his lifetime. The other cultivators retreated like the tide, leaving nothing but a mess. Humph. The spirit tiger's expression was unfriendly as he grit his teeth. It's lucky that first has entered the Dharma characteristic realm. Otherwise, he would have been humiliated and taken advantage of by these ruffians. How famous was Su Zimo? After establishing his martial Dao, his reputation even caught up to the ancient emperors. If he had truly died here and his belongings were fought over by many sects and factions, it would be difficult for his corpse to remain intact. I have my own plans for this matter. Su Zimo replied. After all, factions and sects like Dark Ghost Sect and Seven Kills Sect had not made a move. They were not his primary target. The actions of Dragon Tiger Sect had truly crossed his bottom line. Monkey Tao Yao and the others were injured after the battle. Although their injuries were not serious, Su Zimo felt that it was intolerable. It's time for some sects to learn a lesson. Looking into the distance, Su Zimo waved his sleeves gently and swept Monkey and the others into the auspicious cloud, saying indifferently, "Follow me." Chapter 1227 Intimidation Tactics. Chapter 1227 Intimidation Tactics. Dark Ghost Sect. When Dao Lord Black Leather and the other cultivators returned to the sect, all of them were covered in dirt, looking as though they had suffered immense shock. What? You guys didn't manage to succeed? The sect master of Dark Ghost Sect frowned and asked, which sect snatched away Desolate Martial's belongings? Blood Mist Sect or Seven Kills Sect? No. Dao Lord Black Leather shook his head. Neither? The sect master of Dark Ghost Sect harumphed coldly. Desolate Martial has so many treasures but none of you managed to get your hands on any? Sect master, something has happened. Dao Lord Black Leather composed himself and said, Dragon Tiger Sect sent more than 100 Dharma characteristic Dao Lords and a conjoint body mighty figure to barge into Pingyang Town. Before Dao Lord Black Leather could finish, the sect master of Dark Ghost Sect nodded and said hatefully, It's no wonder why you guys didn't get your hands on it. For the sake of Desolate Martial's belongings, Dragon Tiger sect even brought out a conjoint body mighty figure. No. Dao Lord Black Leather said hurriedly, nobody succeeded. Desolate Martial has already broken through and entered the Dharma characteristic realm. What? The sect master of Dark Ghost sect shuddered with a startled expression before disbelief filled his eyes. How is that possible? He continued hurriedly, Desolate Martial only has dozens of years to his lifespan and his blood chi is weak. How could he have advanced to the Dharma characteristic realm? It's absolutely true. Dao Lord Black Leather said, not only that, Desolate Martial managed to condense a 85 feet tall heaven and earth Dharma characteristic the moment he entered the Dharma characteristic realm. 85 feet. The expression of Dark Ghost sect master changed once more. However, that was understandable as well. Back at the Void Reversion realm, Desolate Martial had already condensed a heaven and earth Dharma characteristic that was 80 feet tall. Now that he had crossed a major cultivation realm, there was indeed a chance that he could grow it to 85 feet. Dao Lord Black Leather continued, thereafter the mighty figure of Dragon Tiger sect fought against this Dharma characteristic head-on and was injured and defeated. He was killed by that unknown fiend demon beside Desolate Martial. More than 100 Dharma characteristic Dao Lords of Dragon Tiger sect were annihilated with no survivors. The expression of the sect master of Dark Ghost sect was already numb. However, shock and fear could vaguely be seen in his eyes. The North region has changed. The North region has changed. He murmured softly. A moment later the sect master of Dark Ghost sect asked again, how did you guys return? Desolate Martial didn't notice you guys? He stared at us for a long time before retracting his gaze. Dao Lord Black Leather recalled that scene with lingering fear. At that time, he truly thought that a calamity was about to descend upon him. Sect Master, could it be that Desolate Martial did not notice our motive for heading there? Dao Lord Black Leather pondered for a moment and asked carefully, after all, we didn't attack at that time. Desolate Martial doesn't know why we went either. Do you think that's possible? The sect master of Dark Ghost sect glared at Dao Lord Black Leather and said coldly, the fact that Desolate Martial is able to cultivate to this point, do you think he wouldn't have guessed your motives? Then why did he let us go? Dao Lord Black Leather was puzzled. The sect master of Dark Ghost sect thought for a moment and analyzed, as you said, Desolate Martial might have let you guys off for the time being because you guys didn't attack. On the other hand, it's also possible that Desolate Martial has something more important. Right, have you guys noticed what Desolate Martial did after? The sect master of Dark Ghost sect asked again. He seems to have gone towards northeast. Dao Lord Black Leather recalled. Northeast direction. The sect master of Dark Ghost sect took out a map of the north region and took a quick glance. His heart skipped a beat as he murmured, Dragon Tiger sect. Stellar Luna sect. Master, there's news from outside. A sect disciple cupped his fists. Desolate Martial entered the Dharma characteristic realm and killed a conjoint body mighty figure of Dragon Tiger sect and more than 100 Dharma characteristic Dao Lords. Pust. In the hall, the elders were shocked and gasped. Desolate Martial is truly a peerless monster incarnate. To think that he could still break through and advance to the Dharma characteristic realm with just 50 years of lifespan left. It's truly unimaginable. Many Stellar Luna sect elders lamented. The sect master of Stellar Luna sect had a relatively calm expression as he asked in a deep voice, what happened after that? Thereafter, Desolate Martial glared at cultivators of Dark Ghost sect, Seven Kills sect and the other sects for a long time before letting them off, the disciple said. Many elders exchanged glances and cupped their fists towards the sect master of Stellar Luna sect. Our sect master is wise. Although Seven Kills sect, Dark Ghost sect and the other sects and factions did not attack, this matter must have left a huge knot in Desolate Martial's heart. The reason why Stellar Luna sect stayed out of the affair was because the sect master went against everyone's wishes and did not send any cultivators to take part in it. The sect master of Stellar Luna sect shook his head gently. Desolate Martial wished to establish a Dao and impart martial arts to all living beings. The reason why I don't agree to the sect fighting for his belongings is out of respect for him. Now, it seems like Desolate Martial is scarier than we imagined. Pausing for a moment, the sect master of Stellar Luna sect said, if I'm not wrong, Desolate Martial should be heading to Dragon Tiger sect. Dragon Tiger sect. The disciple asked, Desolate Marshal just entered the Dharma characteristic realm and he dares to enter Dragon Tiger sect. The sect master of Stellar Luna sect said, over the years Dragon Tiger sect has provoked Desolate Marshal repeatedly and attacked Ethereal Peak. They even grouped up with conjoined body mighty figures to gang on him and barged into Pingyang town. Given Desolate Marshal's character, he will definitely demand an explanation from Dragon Tiger sect. Pausing for a moment, the sect master of Stellar Luna sect continued, furthermore, Desolate Marshal's purpose for this trip is probably an intimidation tactic of knocking on the mountain to scare the tiger. He was knocking on Dragon Tiger sect. He was looking to shock the other aristocratic families in the North region. Dragon Tiger sect is probably doomed. The sect master of Stellar Luna sect sighed gently. I don't think so. An elder of the sect frowned slightly. Dragon Tiger sect is one of the 10 upper sects after all and has a foundation of 10,000 years. There's more than one conjoint body mighty figure in the sect. How can Desolate Marshal wipe out an upper sect single-handedly? The sect master of Stellar Luna sect shook his head. Elders, without witnessing Desolate Marshal personally, none of you will ever be able to experience his strength. Back when he was at the Void Reversion realm, Desolate Marshal had many methods to kill Dharma characteristic Dao Lords. Now that he's already at the Dharma characteristic realm, ordinary conjoint body mighty figures might not be his match. From this day forth, Glass Palace will probably be the only faction in the North region that can suppress Desolate Marshal. All of us in the 10 upper sects will have to bow down to him. The elders were shocked. Sect Master, isn't that a little exaggerated? That's right. Desolate Marshal is only a Dharma characteristic Dao Lord after all. How can he stand above the 10 upper sects? Even if Desolate Marshal's heaven and earth Dharma characteristic is 85 feet tall, it's not invincible. How can the foundation of the Dragon Tiger sect be so easy to deal with? The elders shook their heads. Let's wait for the outcome of this battle. The sect master of Stellar Luna sect replied indifferently. He could not believe that Desolate Marshal could challenge Dragon Tiger sect either. However, nobody knew how strong Desolate Marshal's combat strength was after he entered the Dharma characteristic realm. Nobody knew what Desolate Marshal obtained in the past 5,000 years. The only thing he was certain of was that there was going to be a huge battle at Dragon Tiger sect. If Desolate Marshal was defeated in this battle, the situation in the North region would not change much. If Desolate Marshal won, the situation would be set and even the upper sects and aristocratic families of the North region would have to bow down and submit. Chapter 1228 Stripped of the North region. Chapter 1228 Stripped of the North region. Dragon Tiger sect. As the sect master of Dragon Tiger sect, Luo Hua was under immense pressure. At that moment, he stood at the peak of Dragon Tiger Peak and gazed into the distance with a hint of worry. He did not know if he had made the right choice. However, this was an opportunity for him and Dragon Tiger sect. If he could obtain Desolate Marshal's belongings, there was a high chance he could become the second Desolate Marshal and also find the opportunity to step into the conjoint body realm. Under his lead, Dragon Tiger sect could also become the leader of the 10 upper sects of the North region. There were two different opinions within the sect. The first wanted to express goodwill to Desolate Marshal. Most of those elders were weak and indecisive. They were not suitable to accomplish great things. Dao Lord Luo Hua pouted and sneered internally. The other suggestion was for him to lead everyone and suppress Desolate Marshal to obtain the greatest benefits. Junior brother Fei Ming and the others should have gotten their hands on it by now, right? Dao Lord Luo Hua murmured softly. For some reason, his heart palpitated inexplicably. What's going to happen? He frowned slightly. It was an unusual palpitation, similar to an adrenaline rush. At their cultivation realm, they had an imperceptible sixth sense towards certain things. As sect master, something bad has happened. Right then, a flustered disciple sped over. That person yelled from afar before he even reached. Dao Lord Luo Hua's heart sank. The disciple was a cultivator guarding the destiny symbol shed. As the name implied, the destiny symbol shed was where the destiny symbols of cultivators were stored. If anything were to happen to the cultivators outside, the destiny symbols would change and the sect would be informed about it as soon as possible. Before he could ask, the disciple said, "The destiny symbols of Uncle Master Fei Ming and the others have all shattered." What? Dao Lord Luo Hua's expression changed starkly. Including Fei Ming, there were 101 people in total. Yet none of them are left. Dao Lord Luo Hua asked with a cold gaze. And none. The disciple was scared out of his wits as well and said incoherently, all their destiny symbols have shattered. Suddenly, Dao Lord Luo Hua's expression turned pale. As though he was severely injured, he clutched his chest and took a step back. That was more than 100 Dharma characteristic Dao Lords. Including those in seclusion and those who were out on expeditions, there were less than 200 Dharma characteristic Dao Lords in Dragon Tiger sect in total. But now more than half of them were gone. No, that's impossible. Dao Lord Luo Hua shook his head repeatedly. Elder Jianghu went as well. How could Fei Ming and the others be completely annihilated? That made no sense. In this operation, he even expected that some of Desolate Marshall's old friends and acquaintances would rush over to help. That was the reason why he invited Elder Jianghu out of seclusion. That power was enough to crush Desolate Marshall's power into dust? How did such a huge change happen? Could it be that person from Dragon Burial Valley? Dao Lord Luo Hua murmured softly. Right then, another cultivator sped over with a flustered expression. Before he arrived, he yelled, Sect Master, something bad is happening. It said that Desolate Marshall has already entered the Dharma characteristic realm and killed Elder Jianghu and Uncle Master Fei Ming's group of more than 100 outside Pingyang town. What did you say? Dao Lord Luo Hua glared and said word by word. He did not believe that Desolate Marshall would be able to break through to the Dharma characteristic realm and stand shoulder to shoulder with him given his limited lifespan. Luo Hua, get the hell out. Right then, a loud roar sounded from outside the sect, spreading to every corner of Dragon Tiger sect like thunder. Desolate Marshall is here. Dao Lord Luo Hua's heart skipped a beat. If Desolate Marshall had truly entered the Dharma characteristic realm, he was almost certain that Desolate Marshall would come to settle scores with him. However, he had not expected Desolate Marshall to arrive so quickly. Swoosh. Dao Lord Luo Hua withdrew a talisman from his storage bag that soared into the air and exploded. It was a messaging talisman. It would only be used if the sect was met with a critically dire situation. The sect was stirred. Countless powerful auras burst forth and everyone woke up from their seclusion cultivation. What is going on? There's someone else who dares to cause trouble at the entrance of Dragon Tiger sect. Dao Lord Luo Hua said in a deep voice, Everyone, this person's Dao title is Desolate Marshall and he's the #1 enemy of our sect. Now that he's here, please join forces and kill him. The Dharma characteristic Dao Lords in seclusion did not know who Desolate Marshall was. That's for sure. If he dares to create havoc in Dragon Tiger sect, he'll be doomed. I was wondering what sort of a mighty figure patriarch it was. So, it's a Dharma characteristic Dao Lord. These days, even Dharma characteristic Dao Lords dare to be so arrogant? Under Dao Lord Luo Hua's lead, many Dharma characteristic Dao Lords headed towards the entrance gate. Some elders in the sect shook their heads when they saw this. They were the ones who did not agree with Dao Lord Luo Hua's plan from the start. To think that this plan would still attract trouble for Dragon Tiger sect in the end. Outside Dragon Tiger sect. Standing on the clouds, Su Zimo looked down at the paradise beneath his feet. Dragon Tiger sect was surrounded by mountains and lush trees. There was even a clear spirit spring flowing between the peaks. It was an excellent cultivation field. You guys are injured. You can just observe from here. Su Zimo glanced sideways and instructed Monkey and the others. I can still fight. Monkey yelled excitedly. Su Zimo smiled gently. It won't be too late for you guys to attack if I meet with danger. Where did this arrogant fool come from? How dare you shout in Dragon Tiger sect? Right then, dozens of Dharma characteristic Dao Lords walked out of Dragon Tiger sect. One of them sneered at Su Zimo and hollered. You don't recognize me? A look of surprise flashed through Su Zimo's eyes. Even in the entire Tianhuang mainland, his Dao title was renowned, let alone in the North region. Among these people, some of them were in seclusion most of the time and did not recognize who Desolate Marshall was. I'm here to look for Luo Hua today. Anyone unrelated should make way. Su Zimo's expression turned cold as he looked at the dozens of Dharma characteristic Dao Lords of Dragon Tiger sect opposite him. What do you want from me? The crowd dispersed and Dao Lord Luo Hua, the sect master of Dragon Tiger sect, walked over slowly. First, you have to die. Su Zimo did not waste his breath on Luo Hua and said straightforwardly, "Second, from this day forth, Dragon Tiger sect shall disperse." Brazen. How arrogant. You're only a Dharma characteristic Dao Lord and yet you want Dragon Tiger sect to disperse because of you? Ridiculous. That's the greatest joke in the world. Dao Lord Luo Hua shook his head as well and sneered, "I won't agree to either of your demands. Desolate Marshal, you are indeed strong. However, it's a fool's dream if you think that you can shake the foundation of Dragon Tiger sect that has lasted for 10,000 years single-handedly." "It's fine if you don't agree." Su Zimo smiled faintly. "If you don't agree, I'll kill you personally. I'll destroy Dragon Tiger sect personally and strip its place in the North region." Chapter 1229, Great Sanskrit Light Fist. Chapter 1229, Great Sanskrit Light Fist. You're asking for death. Many Dharma characteristic Dao Lords of Dragon Tiger sect hollered. Bang, bang, bang. One after another, heaven and earth Dharma characteristics surged into the skies like gigantic spirits. Instantly, the world shook and Dharmic powers surged with a rampant might. The heights of those heaven and earth Dharma characteristics were different. The weakest were 30 feet tall while the strongest were 60 feet tall. A Dao Lord of Dragon Tiger sect controlled a Dharma characteristic that was more than 50 feet tall with his spirit consciousness and charged towards Su Zimo in huge strides. With every step the heaven and earth Dharma characteristic took, the ground would tremble with a shocking aura. Humph. Su Zimo sneered. Without even using his heavenly fiend Dharma body, he chanted a few Sanskrit words rapidly and threw out a punch. That punch was like a blazing sun that shone with a bedazzling light. Great Sanskrit Light Fist. That Dharmic art was inherited from a stone statue in the Dao inheritance ground. It was one of the top Dharmic arts of the Buddhist sects back in the ancient era and had a shocking might. The burst of each punch resembled the descent of a blazing sun and was incomparably tough. Before the 50 feet tall Dharma characteristic could reach Su Zimo, its massive body was punctured by the Great Sanskrit Light Fist. What? The Dao Lords of Dragon Tiger sect exclaimed in shock. A Dharma characteristic that was more than 50 feet tall could not even defend against a single Dharmic art from the other party. What was even more frightening was that the heaven and earth Dharma characteristics' Dharmic powers dissipated and was on the verge of disappearing before it even collided against the Great Sanskrit Light Fist properly. The difference was too great. Although Su Zimo had just entered the Dharma characteristic realm, his essence spirit cultivated the cultivation techniques of the immortal, Buddhist and Fiend sects and fused more than 30 inheritances. The essence of the immortal, Buddhist and Fiend sects was profound and the power of his essence spirit was comparable to a conjoint body mighty figure. The range of his spirit consciousness could extend to 5,000 kilometers. What was 5,000 kilometers? 4 ordinary cultivators who had just entered the Dharma characteristic realm, their spirit consciousness could only extend to 500 kilometers. The difference was 10 times. That difference was even more significant in a fight. The essence spirit was powerful and gushed with Dharmic powers. Alongside a top-tier Dharmic art, even a 60 feet heaven and earth Dharma characteristic could not defend against it, let alone one that was 50 feet. Boom. The Great Sanskrit Light Fist struck the Dharma characteristic Dao Lord heavily. That person had summoned his destiny Dharmic weapon as well, but it was shattered by a single punch. At the same time, his body was torn apart without a corpse. It was just a single punch. A heaven and earth Dharma characteristic dissipated and a Dharma characteristic Dao Lord's essence spirit was destroyed. Sandstorm. Su Zimo's attack was not over yet as he pointed forward. One after another, violent gusts of wind rose from the ground, sweeping up endless mud and rocks. Every single sand particle possessed powerful Dharmic powers as they howled towards the Dao Lords of Dragon Tiger sect, covering the skies. Poof, poof, poof. Some heaven and earth Dharma characteristics that were 40 feet tall and below were shattered by the Dharmic art and their Dharmic powers dissipated, they could not withstand it at all. Sandstorm was also an inheritance from a stone statue in the Dao inheritance ground. It came from the immortal sections. Each of those ancient inheritances possessed shocking might and a single inheritance was enough for one to dominate the world. Avicii. Fiend chi coiled around Su Zimo's fingertips and a region the size of a palm was swiftly formed. It was sinister, filled with blood mists and specters. Su Zimo threw that hell above the heads of the many Dharma characteristics of Dragon Tiger sect. Avicii was initially small. However, it expanded rapidly upon descending and enveloped the dozens of Dharma characteristic Dao lords like a whirlwind. The heaven and earth Dharma characteristics waved their fists within and Dharmic powers surged, but they could not break free. Avicii was an extremely terrifying place. Nobody could endure the endless torture of Avicii physically and mentally. The only few heaven and earth Dharma characteristics that managed to hold on were more than 60 feet tall. Even then they were destroyed completely by the pressure of this Dharmic art. Without the support of their heaven and earth Dharma characteristics, the Dao Lords of Dragon Tiger sect could not defend against Su Zimo's Dharmic arts. How dare you guys try to stop me with your heaven and earth Dharma characteristics? Su Zimo crossed over the heads of the Dharma characteristic Dao Lords with his hands behind his back without even looking at them. Sect masters, save me. Tragic cries sounded one after another, but there was no response. Back when Su Zimo released his second Dharmic art, Dao Lord Luo Hua had already seized the opportunity of the chaos to escape back to the inner sect of Dragon Tiger sect. He knew very well that the dozens of Dharma characteristic Dao Lords could not stop Su Zimo. Su Zimo did not take Dao Lord Luo Hua's escape to heart. He was going to flatten Dragon Tiger sect today. Dao Lord Luo Hua had nowhere to hide. Monkey and the others stood on the auspicious cloud and did not attack at all. They merely watched by the side in a carefree manner. Tao Yao felt much less aggrieved as well. Sect Protection Formation activate. Dao Lord Luo Hua returned to Dragon Tiger Peak and activated the Sect Protection Formation right away. Elders, Dragon Tiger sect is in danger. Even if you don't agree with my previous decision, you can't just watch as Dragon Tiger sect is destroyed. Dao Lord Luo Hua looked at the dozens of sect elders not far away and said with a menacing expression. The elders exchanged glances and sighed. We're only at the Dharma characteristic realm as well, and there's a limit to what we can do. An elder said, if even this sect protection formation can't stop Desolate Marshal, we won't attack him. That would be courting death. Sigh, perhaps this is the fate of Dragon Tiger sect. Don't worry. Dao Lord Luo Hua said in a deep voice, this sect protection formation was set up by a top-tier formation grandmaster. Even if a conjoined body mighty figure were to come, it would be impossible for him to dispel it in less than a month. Even if Desolate Marshal can't break through the sect protection formation, what can you do? An elder asked. I can send a message to the other sects and have them send experts to help. Dao Lord Luo Hua said. Impossible. An elder laughed mockingly. Given the current situation, which of those upper sects would want to get involved in this mess? All of them are definitely awaiting the final outcome of this battle. Dao Lord Luo Hua's expression was dark. There's also Glass Palace. Glass Palace and Desolate Marshal have a feud. If we inform Glass Palace, they won't sit by idly. Before his sentence was finished, the entire sect protection formation shook. The light flickered and showed signs of dispersing. What? Impossible. Dao Lord Luo Hua's expression changed starkly. No matter how strong Desolate Marshal was, he was only comparable to conjoined body mighty figures at most. How could he shake this formation? Without hesitation, Dao Lord Luo Hua said hurriedly, Hurry, hurry. Elders, hurry and help steady the formation. Many elders scattered everywhere and conjured hand seals, sending Dharmic powers into the sect protection formation to stabilize it. A gigantic barrier of light shrouded the skies above the Dragon Tiger sect. Outside the barrier, a green-robed figure stood, looking down at Dao Lord Luo Hua's group with a mocking expression. Luo Hua, even your array formation can't stop me. Su Zimo said indifferently, Today I'll show you how I dispel the formation. Chapter 1230 Flattening the Formation. Chapter 1230 Flattening the Formation. The sect protection formation of Dragon Tiger sect was indeed extremely mysterious. It was as Dao Lord Luo Hua had said, even for conjoined body mighty figures, it would take them at least a month to dispel it with brute force. However, he missed something. If a grandmaster well-versed in array formations were to arrive, they would not even need to rely on brute force. Instead, they could locate the eye of the formation and destroy it instantly. More than 10 years ago, Su Zimo's attainment in array formations could not even be considered as a great formation master, let alone a grandmaster. However, in the Dao inheritance ground, among the more than 30 inheritances he had received, one of them came from an ancient formation grandmaster. Nobody knew what sort of transformations he had experienced in the Dao inheritance ground. One of them was his attainments in array formations. The formation patterns of the sect protection formation were complex and mysterious. In the eyes of cultivators who did not know about formations, it was akin to a heavenly book that they had no clue about at all. But now, Su Zimo merely swept his gaze and found a clue within the complex formation patterns. He conjured hand seals with both hands and released 3 Buddhist Dharmic seals in succession. Fiend Suppression Seal. Demon Subduing Seal. Immortal Trap Seal. 3 Dharmic seals of the Buddhist monasteries descended with a terrifying might towards the light barrier beneath. The elders of Dragon Tiger sect were shocked. Under normal circumstances, the power of the 3 Buddhist Dharmic seals would not be enough to deal with the sect protection formation. However, the landing spot of the 3 Dharmic seals happened to be where the 3 formation eyes were. The formation eye was the core of the formation and was also the source of its power. Through the eye and formation patterns, power ripples out and channels the formation, increasing its strength multiplicatively to form various different formations. Once the formation eye was dispelled, it would be difficult to maintain the formation no matter how intricate the formation patterns were. Impossible. Dao Lord Luohua's eyes widened in disbelief. How long had it been since he activated the sect protection formation? It was probably less than 10 minutes. In that short period of time, Desolate Marshal managed to identify the 3 formation eyes of the sect protection formation without any deviations. What the hell? Bang, bang, bang. There were 3 loud bangs. 3 Dharmic seals of the Buddhist monasteries descended and smashed heavily against the 3 formation eyes, causing massive Dharmic powers to ripple. The formation eyes shattered and lost their support. Instantly, the entire sect protection formation shook and flickered. Su Zimo closed in and took a step forward, stomping heavily on the light barrier of the sect protection formation with his right foot. Break. Bang. Boom. Boom. That single stomp caused the ground to quake. Under countless gazes, dense cracks appeared on the light barrier of the sect protection formation and spread rapidly. The entire mountain gate of Dragon Tiger sect trembled as though the apocalypse had arrived and the sky was collapsing. The elders felt as though they were struck by lightning and shuddered, spitting out a mouthful of blood with dispirited expressions. Shattered. The sect protection formation that Dao Lord Luohua said could defend against the power of a conjoined body mighty figure for a month was destroyed by Su Zimo just like that. The foundation of the Dragon Tiger sect that spanned 10,000 years was still trampled beneath Su Zimo's feet. If that was the case for the sect master of Dragon Tiger sect, it was even worse for the other cultivators. The crowd was astonished. Some of the cultivators were already fleeing in panic. Su Zimo ignored everything. The main reason why he came this time round was to kill Dao Lord Luohua and remove Dragon Tiger sect from the upper sects. It was not for a massacre. Desolate Marshal. Dao Lord Luohua hollered angrily, Dragon Tiger sect is one of the 10 upper sects of the North region. Do you really want to be overbearing and kill us all? Foo-foo. Su Zimo sneered, Luohua, Dragon Tiger sect took part in the fight between the dynasties and attacked Ethereal Peak. In fact, you even sent a conjoined body mighty figure of the sect to hunt me down. I've never sought accountability for any of those events. But now, even at the verge of my exhausting lifespan, you sent more than 100 Dharma characteristic Dao Lords and a conjoined body mighty figure relentlessly to barge into Pingyang town. Who is overbearing one who was trying to kill me? Dao Lord Luohua was rendered speechless by the barrage of questions. Ugh. Many elders shook their heads and sighed. Dao Lord Luohua grit his teeth. Since things have come to this, it's useless to say anything more. Desolate Marshal, I can only tell you that Dragon Tiger sect has a history of 10,000 years. If we really fight to the death, it'll only result in an internecine outcome. Is that so? Su Zimo said indifferently, I want to see what Dragon Tiger sect is going to hurt me with today. Bang. Bang. With 2 consecutive explosions, 2 cave abodes on Dragon Tiger Peak exploded and 2 extremely terrifying auras burst forth with a suppressive might. 2 conjoined body mighty figures had appeared. The sect was met with a calamity and could be destroyed at any moment. These conjoined body mighty figures who were in seclusion all year round had finally appeared. Furthermore, Su Zimo could vaguely sense that the 2 mighty figures were not the only ones in Dragon Tiger sect. Those who could cultivate to the conjoined body realm were all grand elders of Dragon Tiger sect. The 2 old men looked extremely similar. Although their beards were grayish-white, they were hale and hearty and had robust blood qi. They did not show any signs of weakness and had bright gazes. A gigantic bronze bell hovered above the head of the old man on the left. The old man on the right held a dark gold tripod in his palm. In the cultivation world, cultivators who used Dharmic weapons such as bells, tripods and furnaces were not to be trifled with and had extraordinary combat strength. These two siblings had the same parents and were extremely famous in the cultivation world of the North region 5,000 years ago. They were known as the Bell Tripod Twin Lords. Both of their combat strengths were extremely strong. Coupled with their telepathic connection and chemistry, the combat strength they released would increase exponentially. The most famous battle between the two of them was when they were Dharma characteristic Dao Lords. They once worked together to repel a conjoint body mighty figure. Greetings, Elders Zhong and Ding. Dao Lord Luo Hua bowed slightly with a respectful expression. The two old men nodded. Elder Zhong on the left said in a deep voice, "Desolate Marshal, please return. I've heard some of your deeds. Indeed, Dragon Tiger sect won't be able to stop you with our foundations if you manage to cultivate to the conjoint body realm." He suddenly stopped speaking. Elder Ding at the side continued, "However, you've just entered the Dharma characteristic realm. It's a fool's dream for you to want to flatten Dragon Tiger sect." The two old men were telepathic and completed their sentences as though it was only one of them speaking. Even their tone was identical. "Is that so?" Su Zimo smirked coldly. "Let's see how you two are going to stop me. Kill?" Suddenly, the two elders shouted at the same time and formed a triangular formation, charging towards Su Zimo. Before they arrived, the gigantic bronze bell and dark gold tripod in their hands had already arrived. The materials used for the two Dharmic weapons were extremely rare metal ores. The mystic magnet mountain did not have much effect on the two Dharmic weapons either. The gigantic bronze bell emitted an extremely mysterious energy that shrouded Su Zimo's head. It was as though he was carrying a ton of weight and could not move at all. As for the dark gold tripod, it smashed towards Su Zimo. Elders Zhong and Ding displayed immense combat strength the moment they attacked. Chapter 1231 Rulai Dharmic Body. Chapter 1231, Rulai Dharmic Body. Conjoint body mighty figures could release immense heaven and earth powers alongside unparalleled heaven and earth momentum with every single move. Conjoint body mighty figures were fused with heaven and earth. Of course, combat strength at the conjoint body realm varied as well. The combat strength of Elders Zhong and Ding was clearly much stronger than the mighty figures of Dragon Tiger sect who died in Night Spirit's hands outside Pingyang town. Su Zimo felt a sense of pressure. No matter what, he was at the Dharma characteristic realm. If he wanted to retaliate against the pressure and power of a conjoint body mighty figure, he could only rely on his heaven and earth Dharma characteristic. "Rise!" Su Zimo shouted. Boom. A phantom soared into the skies from Su Zimo's body. It was clad in armor and exuded rumbling fiend chi that was pitch black. Wielding a black scythe, it was murderous. It was the heavenly fiend Dharma body that was 85 feet tall. The crowd was astonished. Everyone from Dragon Tiger sect looked up instinctively and their eyes were filled with shock as they looked at this indomitable fiend celestial-like existence. 85 feet. A Dharma characteristic with this height was something they had never seen before or dared to imagine. The most terrifying thing was that Desolate Marshal was only at the early stage Dharma characteristic realm. If he continued cultivating, his heaven and earth Dharma characteristic would continue to grow, and at that time, there was a high chance it would become a 90 feet tall supreme Dharma characteristic. The Dharma characteristic ranking was held once every 1,000 years. However, it had been many years since a supreme Dharma characteristic had appeared in the cultivation world. The most recent was Extreme Fire. Not long after, Extreme Fire broke through and fused his Dharma characteristic with his body to become a conjoint body mighty figure. That supreme Dharma characteristic appeared fleetingly and did not cause much of a stir. On the battlefield. Initially, the gigantic bronze bell had pinned Su Zimo on the spot, slowing his movements and giving him immense pressure. But now, the heavenly fiend Dharma body surged into the skies and resolved the pressure on Su Zimo instantly. Slash. He pointed forward. The eyes of the heavenly fiend Dharma body shone with two pitch-black fiend lights. Raising its arm, the gigantic scythe drew a crescent-shaped cold light in midair and slashed heavily against the incoming dark gold tripod. Clang. Sparks flew as the two weapons collided. The dark gold tripod was sent flying. The heavenly Fiend Dharma body merely swayed without retreating a single step. However, Elder Ding staggered 3 steps back with a dark gaze and a grim expression. The power of a 85 feet tall heaven and earth Dharma characteristic was so terrifying. Wielding a gigantic scythe in his hands, the heavenly Fiend Dharma body glared at Elder Ding and growled deeply. Instantly, it exerted strength and charged forward. "Demon, don't get cocky now." Not far away, Elder Zhong hollered and slapped the gigantic bronze bell viciously. OM. A terrifying sound domain attack descended. The heavenly Fiend Dharma body shuddered as though it had suffered a huge blow. It paused for a moment and its speed slowed down as well. The sound domain attack was extremely lethal and even Su Zimo felt a sharp pain in his ears. But soon, Sanskrit sounded in his consciousness and dissipated that power. Although Elder Zhong's expression was unchanged, a storm brewed in his heart. His sound domain secret skill was extremely terrifying. With the amplification of the gigantic bronze bell, the lethality of the sound domain attack was something that even conjoint body mighty figures could not withstand. To think that desolate marshal managed to endure it. Clang. Elder Zhong tossed the gigantic bronze bell over and it collided against the scythe of the heavenly Fiend Dharma body. This time round, Elder Zhong did not retreat. This did not mean that Elder Zhong was stronger than Elder Ding. It was because Elder Zhong had made use of a sound domain secret skill to affect the speed of the heavenly Fiend Dharma body. Even its power was dissipated significantly. Clang, clang, clang. The heavenly Fiend Dharma body raised its black scythe and clashed against Elders Zhong and Ding. The heavenly Fiend Dharma body was extremely strong. If the two elders were to separate, it would be difficult for either one to defend against the power of the heavenly Fiend Dharma body. But now, Elders Zhong and Ding had chemistry in their coordination. The moment anything happened to one party, the other party would send support swiftly so that the heavenly Fiend Dharma body could not sustain its lethal attacks. With that, the heavenly Fiend Dharma body was gradually disadvantaged. Desolate Marshal. Elder Zhong hollered, "Is that your trump card?" Although a 85 feet tall heaven and earth Dharma characteristic is strong, it's impossible for you to challenge Dragon Tiger sect with that Dharma characteristic. Bang, bang. Both of them released their Dharmic powers at the same time and clashed against the heavenly Fiend Dharma body. The heavenly Fiend Dharma body staggered a few steps in retreat. Su Zimo's lips curled and he said in a shocking manner, "Since a single heaven and earth Dharma characteristic won't do, I'll summon 2. Boom. It was yet another deafening sound. A phantom soared into the skies. Bald and dressed in monk robes, it wielded prayer beads and had a lowered head. This Dharma characteristic was dignified and its body seemed to be covered in a layer of gold. What? That's a second heaven and earth Dharma characteristic. Desolate Marshal managed to condense 2 heaven and earth Dharma characteristics after entering the Dharma characteristic realm. The origin of that heaven and earth Dharma characteristic is not simple either. If I'm not wrong, that should be the legendary Rulai Dharmic body. A series of exclamations came from the crowd. Under countless gazes, the dignified Dharma characteristic grew continuously. 10 feet. 30 feet. 50 feet. In the blink of an eye, the heaven and earth Dharma characteristic had grown to 80 feet. Furthermore, it showed no signs of stopping. 85 feet. Before long, the heaven and earth Dharma characteristic grew to a height of 85 feet before truly stopping. An 85 feet tall heaven and earth Dharma characteristic was enough to stir the entire cultivation world of the North region, let alone 2. This heaven and earth Dharma characteristic was one of the strongest Dharma bodies of the Buddhist monasteries, the Rulai Dharmic body. The reason why Su Zimo was able to create the Rulai Dharmic body was mainly because of the Great Day Rulai Sutra. Of course, the reason why the Rulai Dharmic body could grow to such a level was also because of the close to 5,000 years of cultivation and comprehension in Buddhism. 2 indomitable titans stood between the mountains of Dragon Tiger sect. One was violent and sharp. The other was calm as water. One was a Dharma characteristic of the Buddhist monasteries. One was a Dharma body of the Fiend sections. 2 completely different heaven and earth Dharma characteristics from different lineages were fighting side by side without any resistance. Kill him. He pointed forward. Bang, bang. The 2 heaven and earth Dharma characteristics moved at the same time. Their massive feet stomped on the ground, causing a stir. The reason why Elders Zhong and Ding were able to force back the heavenly Fiend Dharma body was because they had chemistry with one another and it was 2 against 1. Now that the Rulai Dharmic body had joined the battlefield and separated elders Zhong and Ding, their advantage was gone. In less than 10 rounds, elders Zhong and Ding were fighting on their own and were already steadily losing ground. They could not stop the advancement of the heavenly fiend Dharma body and Rulai Dharmic body at all. When the Rulai Dharmic body stood still, it lowered its head and looked neither sad nor joyful. It was calm and gentle. However, with a single thought from Su Zimo, the Rulai Dharmic body opened its eyes and let out 2 shuddering gazes. Enraged diamond gaze. That gaze caused Elder Zhong's courage to weaken and he panicked. The Dharmic art that he had just conjured was gone. Clang. The Rulai Dharmic body punched out and struck the gigantic bronze bell. It was like a gigantic stone pillar that struck the gigantic bronze bell. The bell rang sharply and suddenly exploded. Elder Zhong, who was the closest to the Dharmic weapon, was in an extremely terrible state. His ears were pierced by the sound domain attack released by his own Dharmic weapon and blood gushed out. Chapter 1232, Slaying a Mighty Figure. Chapter 1232, Slaying a Mighty Figure. The gigantic bronze bell was sent flying by a single punch from the Rulai Dharmic body. It was extremely fast and carried a terrifying power as it smashed towards Elder Zhong. Elder Zhong did not have time to dodge and could only extend his arms as his blood chi surged to receive the gigantic bronze bell. Bang! He shuddered and his expression changed as he spat out a mouthful of blood. The power of the Rulai Dharmic body was way too strong. The Rulai Dharmic body originated from the supreme mystic classic of the Buddhist monasteries, the Great Day Rulai Sutra. However, there were many Buddhist legacies condensed on the Dharma body. Apart from Daming Monastery and Fahua Monastery, there were also some ancient Buddhist legacies in the stone statue cemetery. The eyes of the Dragon Tiger sect cultivators were filled with endless shock and fear. Even when he had just entered the Dharma characteristic realm, his 85 feet heaven and earth Dharma characteristic was enough for him to reign supreme across the same cultivation realm and could even kill opponents that were major cultivation realms above him. But now, Desolate Marshal had formed 2 heaven and earth Dharma characteristics. This was unprecedented. The psychological pressure was even more intense than the visual impact of the 2 heaven and earth Dharma characteristics. Many Dragon Tiger sect cultivators even harbored a thought that Desolate Marshal was invincible. Be it Dharma characteristic Dao lords of the same cultivation realm or nascent souls and void reversions of the younger generation, all of them felt despair. 2 85 feet tall heaven and earth Dharma characteristics destroyed the mental defenses of the Dragon Tiger sect cultivators. Even elders Zhong and Ding were feeling regret at the moment, let alone them. However, it was already too late for them to back down. It was too late for them to stop now. Kill? Churning their blood chi to their limits, the 2 elders roared, "What are you guys waiting for?" Before their sentence was finished, 2 figures suddenly flashed and sped towards Su Zimo with terrifying auras and shuddering killing intent. Another 2 conjoint body mighty figures. That was the foundation of upper sects. Although there were no ancestor realm experts in the sect, there were close to 10 conjoint body mighty figures. That was how Dragon Tiger sect was able to become one of the upper sects of the North region and pass down their legacy for 10,000 years. Actually, the 2 conjoint body mighty figures had been hiding in the vicinity the entire time. However, they had not appeared. The 2 mighty figures were cautious by nature. Even though Su Zimo was only at the Dharma characteristic realm, they did not underestimate him and were in no hurry to attack. Instead, they were waiting for the best opportunity. At that moment, even without the reminder of elders Zhong and Ding, they would have attacked. The Rulai Dharmic body and heavenly fiend Dharma body had been lured away by elders Zhong and Ding and were no longer by Su Zimo's side. At the current moment, Su Zimo was at his weakest. Su Zimo's expression was unchanged and his eyes flashed with mockery. His spirit consciousness was comparable to a conjoint body mighty figure and was augmented by his powerful spirit perception. Naturally, he had long sensed the existence of the 2 conjoint body mighty figures. Since he dared to have his heavenly fiend Dharma body and Rulai Dharmic body keep their distance from him to hunt down elders Zhong and Ding, he naturally had powerful means to deal with other unforeseen circumstances. Nobody could imagine what level Su Zimo had reached after experiencing 5,000 years of consolidation in the Dao inheritance ground and advancing to the Dharma characteristic realm. His entirety was not just the 2 heaven and earth Dharma characteristics. Of course, these were Su Zimo's trump cards and he would not reveal them so easily. Furthermore, the combined attack of two conjoint body mighty figures was still not enough for him to release his third heaven and earth Dharma characteristic. Turning slightly, Su Zimo closed two fingers on his left hand and conjured a sword art, slashing gently at the mighty figure of Dragon Tiger sect on the left. Chi. A blazing sword beam burst forth and created a vast expanse of white, almost slicing the void into two as it descended on the mighty figure's head instantly. Heaven-slaying sword art. All the killing intent in the world seemed to have converged into the sword art at that moment. It was extremely sharp. After 5,000 years of deduction cultivation, Su Zimo's understanding of the heaven-slaying sword art had already reached greater mastery. After entering the Dharma characteristic realm, the might of the sword art increased as well. As his comprehension of the heaven-slaying sword art deepened, the power of the sword chi that was released became even more terrifying. It was extremely sharp and seemed like it could destroy everything. The aura of that mighty figure was sliced into pieces by the sword chi. Ah! The mighty figure of Dragon Tiger sect exclaimed in shock and stopped in his tracks, summoning a defensive Dharmic weapon to defend himself. Clang! The heaven-slaying sword chi struck the Dharmic weapon. The sword chi vanished. A white streak appeared on the Dharmic weapon. All of a sudden, the mighty figure of Dragon Tiger sect retreated rapidly and tossed away the Dharmic weapon in his hands. The moment the Dharmic weapon left his hand, it split into two and fell to the ground with a clean cut. It was sliced into two by a single sword chi. Trying to flee? Su Zimo shook his head gently and controlled his finger sword, slashing out once more. Compared to when he was at the void reversion or nascent soul realm, it was much easier for him to release the heaven-slaying sword chi now. No matter how fast the mighty figure of Dragon Tiger sect retreated, he could not be faster than the heaven-slaying sword chi. Whoosh! The mighty figure's reaction was extremely fast. He tore apart a talisman immediately and formed an indestructible barrier before continuing to escape. Snap! The sword chi entered the protection Dharmic barrier. The Dharmic barrier shattered instantly. It could not withstand the sharpness of the heaven-slaying sword chi. A flash of blood light appeared. The arm of the conjoint body mighty figure was sliced off by the heaven-slaying sword chi and blood splattered, dyeing half the skies red. This was the blood of a conjoint body mighty figure and contained boundless Dharmic powers. The power within a single drop of that blood was enough to kill a golden core. Ah! The mighty figure let out a tragic cry and his face was pale. Channeling Dharmic powers under countless gazes, the muscles on the broken wound twitched and a brand new arm grew rapidly. His arm was regrown. At the conjoint body realm, one could regrow their arms or legs even if they lost them. Destroying the body of a conjoint body mighty figure was extremely difficult. A series of exclamations sounded from the mountain gate. Cultivators of Dragon Tiger sect have long heard about how conjoint body mighty figures could regrow severed limbs, but none of them had witnessed it personally. That was normal. At the conjoint body realm, one was almost at the peak of the cultivation world. How many people could sever the arm of a conjoint body mighty figure? This scene was like a miracle that truly shocked everyone. However, the cheers of the crowd did not stop and an even more shocking scene happened. The moment that brand new arm was born, streaks of blood appeared on it. Tiske, tiske, tsk. It was as though endless sword chi were slicing through his arm. Poof. In the blink of an eye, the arm exploded and vanished once more. The heaven-slaying sword art was known as one of the three great ancient sword arts and possessed terrifying might that could destroy life. Although the conjoint body mighty figure merely lost an arm, his wound possessed a sharp edge that could destroy all life. It was impossible for him to regrow his arm against that sharpness. Ah! The conjoint body mighty figure endured the pain of losing an arm once more and could not help but cry out tragically, almost falling from midair. A severed arm was not a fatal injury to a conjoint body mighty figure. However, his arm was severed twice in succession and his blood chi was drained severely as well. Before he could catch his breath, an intense sense of danger descended once more. A sword chi tore through the air and attacked, drowning his figure completely. A third heaven-slaying sword chi descended. This time round he could no longer dodge. Right in front of everyone, the conjoint body mighty figure was sliced into two by a white sword chi. The sword chi surged into his consciousness and minced his essence spirit instantly. A mighty figure was dead. Chapter 1233 Bow of Mighty Figures. Chapter 1233, Bow of Mighty Figures. The Chi Refinement Warriors, Foundation Establishment Cultivators, Golden Cores and some other cultivators at the lowest rung looked at the scene in a daze. They were shocked and remained silent for a long time. Up till this point of their cultivation, they had never even seen a conjoint body mighty figure attack. This was the first time. But this time round, a conjoint body mighty figure that was insurmountable and beyond their reach had died right in front of them. This scene would be etched in the hearts of many cultivators forever and could not be erased. Conjoint body mighty figures could shake heaven and earth with a single move and had a long lifespan of 20,000 years. However, in the cruel cultivation world, conjoint body mighty figures were no different from them. They were equally fragile and would die with their essence spirits destroyed. 3 heaven-slaying sword chi killed a mighty figure. On the other side, the moment Su Zimo released the heaven-slaying sword chi, another conjoint body mighty figure had already arrived. Su Zimo did not even look at him. In his consciousness, the 54 green lotus seeds on the creation green lotus spewed out. Multicolored light spread and emitted a sharp sword chi as a green sword was rapidly formed. The green lotus sword. A green light flashed on Su Zimo's glabella and the green lotus sword tore through his consciousness, slashing towards the conjoint body mighty figure. This was a killing technique targeted at the essence spirit. Su Zimo did not test the other party and released his killing weapon right away. Desolate Marshal, you're a lunatic. When the mighty figure of Dragon Tiger sect sensed the terrifying aura on the green lotus sword, his expression changed starkly and he could not help but curse as he conjured hand seals repeatedly and conjured an essence spirit secret skill. The green lotus sword targeted the essence spirit. Only essence spirit Dharmic weapons or essence spirit secret skills could defend against it. Roar! Roar! When the essence spirit secret skill of the Dragon Tiger sect mighty figure was released, the void echoed with the roars of dragons and tigers. A divine dragon and a spirit tiger condensed from spirit consciousness charged out and attacked the green lotus sword viciously. Dragon Tiger kill. Among the many essence spirit secret skills of the upper sects, the legacy of Dragon Tiger sect was definitely the top. In the blink of an eye, the green lotus sword and Dragon Tiger kill collided. The fight between essence spirits was silent. However, the collision of their spirit consciousnesses caused fine cracks to appear in the void. The green lotus sword dissipated and returned to Su Zimo's consciousness as 54 green lotus seeds, entering the creation lotus platform to continue nourishing it. However, the mighty figure of Dragon Tiger sect shuddered and the blood drained from his face. His eyes dimmed and he looked dispirited. Although he managed to defend against the essence spirit fight, his essence spirit was severely injured. Notwithstanding the fact that it would be difficult for his cultivation to advance in the future, his lifespan would also suffer immensely. Chi. A white sword chi burst forth from Su Zimo's fingertip. The heaven-slaying sword chi descended once more. The mighty figure of Dragon Tiger sect had a horrified expression and instinctively wanted to condense Dharmic powers to defend. However, the moment his hands conjured a Dharmic art, his essence spirit felt a tearing pain and he nearly fainted. The Dharmic powers that he had just conjured dissipated instantly as well. His essence spirit could not even gather Dharmic powers. In a fight as such, a single mistake could lead to death on the spot, let alone someone like him. The sword chi descended and pierced his head without any resistance. The eyes of the mighty figure of Dragon Tiger sect widened and his expression stiffened. He fell from midair and his life force dissipated rapidly, he was already dead. Another mighty figure was dead. Su Zimo was in complete control of the situation. First was the fight between essence spirits before releasing the heaven-slaying sword chi. He had already predicted every possible situation beforehand. It had been less than 10 breaths since the 2 conjoint body mighty figures appeared and died. To be fair, before entering the Dao inheritance ground, although the green lotus true body's body was indestructible and possessed treasures such as the creation lotus platform and even the inheritance of the immortal, Buddhist and Fiend sects, it was still weaker in combat than the dragon true body. Furthermore, the green lotus true body had an obvious weakness. The power of its bloodline was relatively weaker. If it was closed in by a cultivator that possessed terrifying blood chi and specialized in melee combat similar to the dragon true body, it would most likely be doomed. That was still a weakness for the green lotus true body even after it came forth from the Dao inheritance ground. However, it was nothing to him. The many Dharmic arts and methods of the Green Lotus True Body could make up for that weakness limitlessly. Even if he were to fight against his Dragon True Body now, it was unknown who would win. Although the blood chi of the Dragon True Body was terrifying, it would most likely be blocked by the many powerful Dharmic arts and secret skills of the Green Lotus True Body and could not close in. Both true bodies had grown to a terrifying degree. Initially, Su Zimo's two true bodies were his greatest reliance and trump cards. But now, his martial Dao true body at the bottom of the Dragon Burial Valley, his prime body, was his greatest trump card. His prime body specialized in the martial Dao and no one could guess how far it could progress in the future, not even him. On the battlefield, Elders Zhong and Ding tried their best to hold out against the heavenly Fiend Dharma body and Rulai Dharmic body because they hoped that the other mighty figures of Dragon Tiger sect would be able to succeed. When they saw two mighty figures die in succession, the hearts of Elders Zhong and Ding sank as well. It was over. Dragon Tiger sect was finished. Elders Zhong and Ding finally realized that Dragon Tiger sect's foundation of more than 10,000 years was still unable to defend against this monster incarnate and was about to be trampled to pieces. Bang! Bang! There were two loud bangs. The bodies of Elders Zhong and Ding were slammed heavily into Dragon Tiger Peak by the heavenly Fiend Dharma body and Rulai Dharmic body. Both of them looked extremely wretched with their clothes torn. Their destiny Dharmic weapons, the gigantic bronze bell and dark gold tripod, were no longer glowing and cracks appeared on them. Two Dharmic weapons were shattered by Su Zimo's two heaven and earth Dharma characteristics. The figures of Elders Zhong and Ding were embedded into Dragon Tiger Peak motionlessly. The heavenly Fiend Dharma body looked at the two of them with a cold gaze and waved its arm gently. The heavenly Fiend's scythe drew a cold beam of light in midair and pierced their throats. Poof! Blood gushed out. Two heads flew into the air before rolling back into the forest. Elders Zhong and Ding were dead. The entire Dragon Tiger sect was silent. 4 conjoint body mighty figures were dead. Many Dragon Tiger sect cultivators looked at the skinny figure in midair with endless fear in their eyes. Dao Lord Luo Hua's expression was dark and his eyelids twitched. Even his hands were trembling uncontrollably. At that moment he finally felt regret. However, it was too late. He looked at 3 secluded cave abodes of Dragon Tiger Peak in despair with a hint of anticipation in the depths of his eyes. There were still 3 grand elders of the sect in those cave abodes. If the 3 of them were to join forces, would it be? The moment that thought crossed his mind, he heard Su Zimo saying indifferently, "The 3 of you have been watching for so long. Aren't you going to come out?" Ugh. A deep sigh sounded, filled with fatigue and helplessness. Bang. Boom. Boom. The doors of the 3 cave abodes opened. 3 mighty figures of Dragon Tiger sect appeared. "Greetings, Dao Lord Desolate Marshal." 3 mighty figures of Dragon Tiger sect appeared and bowed their heads, merely saying that single sentence. None of them had any intention of attacking. Dao Lord Luo Hua was in complete despair. Even mighty figures were bowing down. Chapter 1234. Chapter 1234, Luo Hua's death. The cultivators of Dragon Tiger sect looked at everything in silence. When the 3 grand elders greeted Dao Lord Desolate Marshal, it meant that the battle was over. The 3 grand elders were all conjoint body mighty figures. But now, these mighty figures that stood at the peak of the cultivation world had retracted the pride in their hearts to bow down to Dao Lord Desolate Marshal. Su Zimo glanced sideways at the 3 conjoint body mighty figures and asked indifferently, "Why? You're not fighting anymore?" The 3 grand elders smiled bitterly with conflicted expressions. Dao Lord Luo Hua, who was standing on Dragon Tiger Peak, was indignant as a crazy thought flashed through his mind. With a ferocious expression, he shouted, "Elders, Desolate Marshal's heaven and earth Dharma characteristic can't hold on for much longer. If you guys join forces, you'll definitely be able to kill him." After a huge battle, the light of the heavenly Fiend Dharma body and Rulai Dharmic body had indeed dimmed significantly and were no longer corporeal. However, none of the 3 grand elders replied. It did seem like an opportunity. However, the 3 of them did not dare to take the gamble. If they lost, all their years of cultivation would vanish overnight. They could not afford to lose. If they showed weakness now, the 3 of them and the other cultivators of Dragon Tiger sect might still be able to survive. Dao Lord Desolate Marshal. The Grand Elder in the middle cupped his fists. "We've heard about your experiences and encounters. Those are indeed crimes of Dragon Tiger sect and we can't refute them. Since that's the case, Dragon Tiger sect shall disband today. Su Zimo waved his hand and said calmly. However, his words were enough to shock the entire cultivation world of the North region. Dragon Tiger sect was one of the 10 upper sects of the North region and had a legacy of more than 10,000 years. It stood strong despite countless calamities. To think that it would end today. The 3 grand elders sighed internally, realizing that there was no room for negotiation. The grand elder on the left said in a deep voice, Dao Lord Desolate Marshal Luo Hua's crime is unforgivable. However, this has nothing to do with the other cultivators of Dragon Tiger sect. From what I know, some elders in the sect even tried to dissuade Luo Hua, but he merely rejected them. After a brief pause, the grand elder grit his teeth and shouted, Dao Lord Desolate Marshal, please show mercy and not implicate the other innocent cultivators of Dragon Tiger sect. Please. A conjoint body mighty figure was actually pleading to a Dharma characteristic Dao Lord. The other 2 grand elders cupped their fists at the same time. Dao Lord Desolate Marshal, please show mercy. 3 conjoint body mighty figures were pleading for mercy at the same time. If news of this were to spread to the cultivation world, it would definitely cause an uproar. Su Zimo remained silent and no one could read his thoughts. The world was silent. The air seemed to have frozen. At that moment, everyone from Dragon Tiger sect felt their hearts skip a beat. They did not know of Desolate Marshal's decision. If Dao Lord Desolate Marshal was prepared to start a massacre, although they had the advantage in numbers, they would definitely not be able to defend against him. Their fates would be decided by Desolate Marshal's next sentence. The 3 conjoint body mighty figures were tense as well. Under normal circumstances, the safest method in the cultivation world was to eliminate the root of the problem. After all, if Dragon Tiger sect were to disperse today and so many cultivators of it were to leave, it was hard to guarantee that someone would not obtain a great opportunity in the future and rise against the tides to take revenge. However, the person before them was Dao Lord Desolate Marshal. Although they were in seclusion most of the time, they had vaguely heard some legends about him. The matter of Desolate Marshal establishing a Dao and imparting martial arts to all living beings shocked and charmed the 3 of them. Desolate Marshal was not a bloodthirsty person. Perhaps the cultivators of Dragon Tiger sect still had a chance of survival. Actually, there's no need for that. After a moment, Su Zimo spoke slowly, his tone still calm. Su Zimo pointed at the corpses of the fallen mighty figures. I'm only here today to kill Luo Hua. If those people didn't stand in my way, I wouldn't have killed them either. Swoosh. The cultivators heaved a sigh of relief at the same time. Since Dao Lord Desolate Marshal said that their lives were safe. Thank you for showing mercy, Dao Lord Desolate Marshal. The 3 grand elders were delighted and expressed their thanks with cupped fists. Su Zimo glanced at the 3 grand elders and declared proudly, as though he could read their minds, since I dare to let you off, I'm not afraid of you taking revenge. The cultivators were shocked. He let them go because he was not afraid of them taking revenge. Such boldness. That single statement alone caused the 3 grand elders to lose all thoughts of resisting. Boom. With a single step, Su Zimo descended on Dragon Tiger Peak. Dao Lord Luo Hua wanted to struggle and fight to the death, but Su Zimo extended his hand and suppressed him with immense Dharmic powers, grabbing him over. He lifted Dao Lord Luo Hua by the throat and looked down at the cultivators of Dragon Tiger sect. Listen up, the sect master of Dragon Tiger sect, Dao Lord Luo Hua, was killed by me. Dragon Tiger sect was also disbanded because of me. If anyone wants revenge in the future, feel free to come look for me. After a brief pause, Su Zimo changed the topic and said darkly, however, if you come looking for revenge, you'll end up the same way as him. The moment he said that, Su Zimo's palm trembled and crushed Dao Lord Luo Hua's essence spirit instantly. The sect master of Dragon Tiger sect was dead. The cultivators of Dragon Tiger sect kept mum out of fear and did not even dare to breathe heavily. Every cultivator's eyes were filled with fear. That fear would be etched in the depths of their hearts forever. Perhaps one day among these cultivators, some would advance to the Dharma characteristic realm while others would advance to the conjoint body realm, allowing them to dominate a place and suppress countless strong foes. However, they would still not dare to attack Su Zimo. The green figure stood on Dragon Tiger Peak like an untouchable existence that they could only look up to. The rest of you can leave. Su Zimo looked down at the group of cultivators and waved his hand gently. After a momentary silence, the group of cultivators seemed to have realized something and moved one after another, speeding out of the sect. Sword lights and auspicious clouds streaked through the air. None of the cultivators dared to linger. In less than half an hour, apart from Su Zimo, Monkey and the others, the only ones left in the sect were the 3 Grand Elders of Dragon Tiger Sect. The 3 Grand Elders looked at Dragon Tiger Sect and every inch of ground beneath their feet and sighed deeply. They had cultivated in Dragon Tiger Sect for thousands of years. Now that they were about to leave, they were still reluctant. Su Zimo did not rush them either. A long time later, the 3 of them composed themselves and bowed towards Dao Lord Desolate Marshal once more before turning to leave. All 3 of them were clear that from this day forth, the situation in the North region would change entirely. There were many cultivators lingering outside the mountain gate of Dragon Tiger Sect, most of them from the upper sects and aristocratic families of the North region. All of them were awaiting the final outcome of this battle. Before long, the cultivators of Dragon Tiger Sect left. Almost all the cultivators that rushed forward to ask received the same answer. Dao Lord Luo Hua was dead, Dragon Tiger Sect was disbanded and removed from the North region. The cultivators were shocked and hurriedly tore the messenger cranes that they had prepared. The news spread rapidly and continuously in the cultivation world of the North region, forming a powerful storm that swept through the upper sects and aristocratic families. Chapter 1235, Greetings from the World. Chapter 1235, Greetings from the World. Dark Ghost Sect. Within the ghastly hall, a spirit messenger crane flew in. The sect master of Dark Ghost Sect received the spirit crane and a piece of news entered his mind instantly. Right away, his expression froze and he remained silent for a long time. Sect Master, is it news from Dragon Tiger Sect? A few elders surrounded him and asked anxiously. The sect master of Dark Ghost Sect nodded. What did it say? When the elders saw the terrible expression on the sect master's face, they knew that something was amiss, but they could not help but ask. Luo Hua was executed and Dragon Tiger Sect is gone. The sect master of Dark Ghost Sect spoke a single sentence after a long silence. Gone? The elders were shocked and asked again, why is it gone? Dragon Tiger Sect has a history of 10,000 years and there should be a few conjoint body mighty figures in the sect. 4 conjoint body mighty figures tried to stop Desolate Marshal, but they were all killed by him. The sect master of Dark Ghost Sect replied. Ah! The elders exclaimed. 4 conjoint body mighty figures were dead. Furthermore, they died in the hands of a Dharma characteristic Dao Lord. Blood Mist Sect. What did you say? An elder exclaimed in shock. Desolate Marshal has actually conjured 2 heaven and earth Dharma characteristics and they're both 85 feet tall. The sect master of Blood Mist Sect nodded with a dark expression. 85 feet, 2 of them. The elder murmured softly, Desolate Marshal has just entered the Dharma characteristic realm. Once he cultivates to the perfected Dharma characteristic realm, who can suppress him? There already aren't many people who can suppress him now. The sect master of Blood Mist Sect laughed bitterly. 4 conjoint body mighty figures of Dragon Tiger Sect wanted to stop him, but they were all killed by him. Even the 3 remaining conjoint body mighty figures bowed down to him. Yuan Clan. The Yuan Clan's master had a dark expression as he sat in the main hall of the clan. Many cultivators were gathered in the main hall, forming a dark atmosphere. I long expected that Desolate Marshal would become extremely terrifying after entering the Dharma characteristic realm. The Yuan Clan's master grit his teeth. However, to think that this lad would have grown to such an extent. Ugh. Some elders in the clan shook their heads and sighed. Including the remaining 9 upper sects of the North region, our 4 gentry clans and even the 2 ancient aristocratic families, there's probably no one who can suppress Desolate Marshal. Unless Glass Palace makes a move. Don't forget, Desolate Marshal has a Mahayana patriarch backing him. I don't think Glass Palace will attack Desolate Marshal at this time either. Desolate Marshal is just a young lad. Could it be that after today he will reign supreme in the North region? That will probably be the case. The clan discussed. The Yuan clan's master waved his hand. Elders, follow me. We'll head to Dragon Tiger Sect to meet Desolate Marshal. Family Master. The cultivators in the clan were shocked and exclaimed. This decision meant that the Yuan clan had bowed down to Dao Lord Desolate Marshal. Back when Desolate Marshal was ambushed by 6 conjoint body mighty figures in the capital of Yen country, one of the conjoint body mighty figures was from the Yuan clan. Desolate Marshal had yet to express anything regarding this matter. The situation was pressing and the Yuan clan could only bow down first. If Desolate Marshal were to come knocking, it was hard to guarantee that the Yuan clan would not be destroyed and wiped out of the North region like Dragon Tiger sect. The Yuan clan's master had an indignant expression but still said, Desolate Marshal has entered the Dharma characteristic realm and destroyed Dragon Tiger sect. The situation is already set in stone and we can only bow our heads. The cultivators in the clan were silent. Stellar Luna sect. Our sect master is wise. Many elders praised in unison with shocked expressions. Previously, the sect master of Stellar Luna sect determined that Dragon Tiger sect would be removed from the North region after this battle. At that time, many elders refuted the statement. To think that the outcome of Dragon Tiger sect would be as the sect master of Stellar Luna sect expected. The sect master of Stellar Luna sect heaved a sigh of relief. I'm sure all the elders want to witness the grandeur of Dao Lord Desolate Marshal. Why don't you follow me? Are you going to pay a personal visit to Dao Lord Desolate Marshal, sect master? An elder frowned slightly. You're the master of a sect after all. Isn't that a little inappropriate? That should be the case. The sect master of Stellar Luna sect shook his head. Desolate Marshal has entered the Dharma characteristic realm and reigns supreme across the entire North region. His status is even above mine. The only way I can express sincerity is through a personal visit. Pausing for a moment, he smiled gently. The upper sects such as Dark Ghost sect are feeling even more uneasy now. I'm guessing that their sect masters will head to Dragon Tiger sect as well. All the upper sects, gentry clans and aristocratic families of the North region made a move in unison. Sect and clan masters came forth at the same time to head to Dragon Tiger sect. Although Dragon Tiger sect was now a thing of the past after the battle, its mountain gate was still around. Before long, Tao Yao and Yen Qi and the others had already cleaned up the vicinity of the sect and some corpses. Monkey and the others had long been scurrying around the entrance of Dragon Tiger sect curiously. The elixir refinement chamber, Dharmic weapon chamber and everyone else. They stuffed everything good they saw into their storage bags. I'm always getting the best gains when I'm with first. The spirit tiger smiled sheepishly and grabbed a bottle of elixirs, pouring everything into his mouth. He chewed casually before swallowing. Burping, he spat out a stream of spirit chi. Restrain yourself. Ching Ching could not help but kick the spirit tiger as she scolded jokingly, don't overload. It's fine. The spirit tiger grinned. Don't you see Brother Monkey? He found a pool of wine out of nowhere and he's now lying dead drunk inside. In the hall, Su Zimo had just entered the Dharma characteristic realm and experienced another battle. Rubbing his glabella gently, he closed his eyes and stabilized his cultivation realm to comprehend the power of the Dharma characteristic realm. Young master, what are we still doing here? Tao Yao was curious and could not help but ask. Su Zimo did not open his eyes when he heard Tao Yao's question. We're waiting for people. Oh. Tao Yao blinked and nodded, not fully understanding. Young master, cultivate and rest first. I won't disturb you. He was sensible and did not continue asking, merely bowing to bid farewell. Outside the hall, Nian Qi was standing guard. Sister Nian Qi, young master is tired. Let's not disturb him first, Tao Yao said seriously. Nian Qi smiled and nodded. Tao Yao stumbled to the entrance of the sect and stood guard there. His young master was resting and must not be disturbed. He had to stop any fiend demon cultivators from entering. That was what Tao Yao thought. The next morning, Tao Yao was resting when he heard the sound of flying swords tearing through the air. Far away, clouds rumbled and spirit vessels tore through the air one after another. Many auspicious clouds sped forward with many cultivators standing on them in a black patch. They had a terrifying aura and dust billowed as they charged towards Dragon Tiger sect. Tao Yao's expression froze and he perked up. These people are hostile. I can't let them barge into Dragon Tiger sect and disturb young master. He thought to himself. Chapter 1236, Dao Child. Chapter 1236, Dao Child. The first to arrive at Dragon Tiger sect were the cultivators of the Dark Ghost sect. The moment they arrived, Everyone from Dark Ghost Sect caught sight of a boy standing at the entrance of Dragon Tiger Sect. With a stern expression, he blocked their path forward. "You're not allowed to barge in here. Please make a detour," Tao Yao declared. How did this child appear out of nowhere in this forest? Many cultivators of Dark Ghost Sect had never seen Tao Yao before. Look carefully, this is not a child, but a spirit that has turned into a fiend demon. The person who spoke was Dao Lord Blackleather, who had headed to Pingyang Town previously. He whispered to the sect master of Dark Ghost Sect, "Sect master, this boy protected Dao Lord Desolate Marshal outside Pingyang Town and did a great deed." The sect master of Dark Ghost Sect nodded and smiled at Tao Yao. "I'm the sect master of Dark Ghost Sect and I'm here to visit Dao Lord Desolate Marshal. Could I trouble you to inform him?" "Not now. He's still resting." Tao Yao shook his head and rejected without thinking. The expression of the sect master of Dark Ghost Sect darkened. No matter what, as a sect master with a noble status, it did not make sense for him to be rejected by a boy at the entrance when he was here to visit personally. However, he was extremely scheming and did not flare up. The sect master of Dark Ghost Sect laughed still and asked, "May I know how long your young master will be resting?" "I don't know." Tao Yao shook his head. The sect master of Dark Ghost Sect frowned. A Dharma characteristic Dao Lord at the side could not stand it and stood out, harumphing coldly. "Kid, Dark Ghost Sect is an upper sect of the North region. Who do you think you are? How dare you make the decision on your own? If we ask you to report it, head over quickly. Don't waste time." "So what if you're an upper sect?" Tao Yao pouted. Dragon Tiger Sect was an upper sect as well, but they were still destroyed by our young master. "You." The Dharma characteristic Dao Lord was speechless for a moment and was enraged. He said coldly, "What a glib tongue you have. I'll punish you on behalf of your young master today." "You want to fight?" Tao Yao was instantly on guard as he glared at everyone from Dark Ghost Sect. "Back down?" Right then, the sect master of Dark Ghost Sect hollered with a dark expression. "Sect master, he's just a child. Scram. Don't come out and embarrass yourself." The Dharma characteristic Dao Lord wanted to argue but was lambasted by the sect master of Dark Ghost Sect. With an embarrassed expression, he retreated. The sect master of Dark Ghost Sect took a deep breath and turned around. The gloominess on his face dissipated significantly as he revealed a smile. "It's fine. Since Dao Lord Desolate Marshal is resting, we'll wait outside here. Once your young master is awake, can I trouble you to inform him?" The Dark Ghost Sect cultivators were stunned. Their sect master had a dark temperament and had never smiled before, let alone speak with such a gentle tone. "Of course." Tao Yao nodded and did not reject the request. The sect master of Dark Ghost Sect chuckled dryly and waved his hand, retreating with the group of cultivators to rest outside Dragon Tiger Sect. "Sect master, if Desolate Marshal were to rest for half a month, would we have to wait here for so long as well? Isn't Desolate Marshal way too cocky?" "Sect master, we can give Desolate Marshal some face, but there's no need for us to show weakness to a mere child." Many cultivators of Dark Ghost Sect were indignant. The sect master of Dark Ghost Sect shook his head gently. "I heard that this child is extremely close to Desolate Marshal and must not be provoked. Once the Dao is obtained, even fowls and dogs can ascend to the heavens, let alone the Dao Child of Desolate Marshal." Before long, cultivators of Blood Mist Sect arrived at the entrance of Dragon Tiger Sect but were similarly rejected by Tao Yao. Similar to the sect master of Dark Ghost Sect, the sect master of Blood Mist Sect did not barge in and retreated after chatting for a while. Dragon Tiger Sect was destroyed the moment they barged into Pingyang Town. None of them dared to attempt the same. Before long, cultivators of Seven Kills Sect and Yuan Clan arrived at Dragon Tiger Sect as well. Similar to Dark Ghost Sect and Blood Mist Sect, the sect masters of Seven Kills Sect and Yuan Clan were not angered after Tao Yao rejected them. Instead, they chose to wait outside the sect. Before noon, half of the 10 upper sects of the North region had arrived. 3 of the 4 gentry clans had arrived as well. The masters of both aristocratic families had arrived. These upper sect masters and aristocratic family masters were existences that would cause a stir in the North region with a single stomp of their feet. Yet they were waiting obediently outside the Dragon Tiger Sect right now. Although the upper sect masters and aristocratic family masters were given the cold shoulder and exchanged glances, All of them had a tacit understanding and none of them mocked the other. Almost all of them had offended Su Zimo in the past. Now that Su Zimo had entered the Dharma characteristic realm and destroyed Dragon Tiger sect, the situation was set in stone. In order to resolve their past grudges, they could only pay a personal visit. Noon had just passed. Stellar Luna sect, Murong aristocratic family and other sects and factions had arrived as well. All the upper sects and aristocratic families of the cultivation world of the North region were gathered outside Dragon Tiger sect. Even in the ancient era, there shouldn't be any Dharma characteristic Dao Lord that had the entire world paying respects the moment they entered the Dharma characteristic realm, right? The sect master of Stellar Luna sect lamented. That's right. An elder at the side said, however, this is quite a bit of pressure for Desolate Marshal as well. After all, he's facing almost the entire cultivation world of the North region. That's right. No matter how strong Dao Lord Desolate Marshal is and how he can flatten Dragon Tiger sect, there's no way he can go against all the 9 upper sects, for gentry clans and 2 aristocratic families. This gathering of warriors from all over is a test for Dao Lord Desolate Marshal as well. Let's see how he reacts. Many elders of Stellar Luna sect discussed softly. Right then a calm voice sounded from Dragon Tiger sect. When it entered the ears of the cultivators outside the sect, it was neither loud nor soft but extremely clear. Everyone, it's been a long wait. Come on in. The initial clamor outside the sect quietened down. Tao Yao was invigorated and declared, young master is awake. Follow me. The group of them heaved a sigh of relief. Under Tao Yao's lead, the group of cultivators entered Dragon Tiger sect and headed straight for the palace on Dragon Tiger Peak. The palace of Dragon Tiger sect was extremely huge and could accommodate tens of thousands of people with ease. The moment the cultivators entered, they looked up instinctively and shuddered with shock in their eyes. At that moment, a green-robed cultivator sat in the main hall. His black hair fell to his shoulders and his eyes were deep, emanating a powerful aura as though he was one with the world. Tao Yao had already returned to his spot and was standing side by side with Nian Qi behind the green-robed cultivator. Both of them looked young and were like a pair of Dao children, standing guard beside the green-robed cultivator. The cultivators were stunned when they saw that. Legend has it that behind some immortals in the immortal world, there were male and female Dao children that cultivated the Dao, known as the Golden Couple. This scene was extremely similar to the legends of the immortal world. What sort of characters were the leaders of the 9 upper sects, for gentry clans and 2 aristocratic families? Once gathered, they would naturally form a powerful aura. But now that they entered the hall, they were suppressed by the aura of the green-robed cultivator and lowered their heads instinctively, not daring to meet his gaze. Chapter 1237 Killing in Public. Chapter 1237 Killing in Public. That's Dao Lord Desolate Marshal. Many cultivators thought to themselves. Although they had never seen Su Zimo before, they felt that only such a powerful aura was worthy of Desolate Marshal's Dao title. The sect master of Stellar Luna sect and everyone else who had seen Su Zimo before lamented internally. If they had not seen it with their own eyes, they would not have believed that Dao Lord Desolate Marshal had transformed to such a state after merely 10 years. This was not merely an increase in his cultivation realm. It was an indescribable feeling. More than 10 years ago, Su Zimo was lauded as the strongest monster incarnate in history and killed many titular disciples, gaining fame in Tianhuang mainland. He was even reborn after a single attack from a half-martial ancestor. However, at that time, Stellar Luna sect and the others still looked at Su Zimo as though they were looking at a junior. But now there was a sense of vicissitude and pressure emanating from Su Zimo. In front of him, everyone from Stellar Luna sect felt a sense of pressure. Congratulations on entering the Dharma characteristic realm, fellow Taoist Desolate Marshal. After a long silence, the Murong family's master was the first to step forward and say gently, "Of course, I would like to congratulate you on establishing the martial Dao and bringing blessings to the masses as well. Back when I parted ways with you, I told you that I would personally pay a visit to congratulate you if you can establish your martial Dao. Today, I'm fulfilling my promise." The Murong family's master was a beautiful middle-aged lady. She looked to be in her 30s and had a voluptuous figure. Her words and actions were elegant and dignified while her voice was gentle and beautiful, sounding like a spring breeze. "You're too kind, fellow Taoist Murong. Su Zimo smiled gently and nodded. Take a seat. The hall was extremely empty. At that moment, Tao Yao walked down the steps upon Su Zimo's orders and took out a chair from his storage bag, placing it beside the Murong family's master. Please? Tao Yao made an inviting gesture. Thank you, Dao Child. The Murong family's master smiled and sat down. The other cultivators of the Murong family were naturally not qualified to sit in the main hall and stood behind the Murong family's master. Su Zimo's gaze shifted to the sect master of Stellar Luna sect. The sect master of Stellar Luna sect laughed and stood out, bowing slightly. Greetings, fellow Taoist Desolate Martial. Congratulations on entering the Dharma characteristic realm and imparting martial arts to all living beings. Well said. Su Zimo nodded. Take a seat. Tao Yao took out another chair from his storage bag and placed it beside the sect master of Stellar Luna sect. The sect master of Stellar Luna sect heaved a sigh of relief. More than 10 years ago, after the battle at the palace of Yen country, he told Su Zimo that he would forget about the feud between Su Zimo and Stellar Luna sect. In the battle outside Pingyang town thereafter, no cultivators from Stellar Luna sect took part in it either. From the looks of it, those two decisions were made correctly. The Valley Master of Blaze Columbus Valley cupped his fists and laughed. Fellow Taoist Desolate Martial, to think that something like imparting martial arts to all living beings would be done by you. It's nothing much for you to enter the Dharma characteristic realm, but it's definitely worth bragging about creating the martial Tao. No problem. Su Zimo nodded with a smile. Valley Master, why don't you stay here today? There's a wine pool in Dragon Tiger sect and the wine inside is fragrant. You can drink to your heart's content. Good. The Valley Master of Blaze Columbus Valley's eyes lit up as he said hurriedly, since fellow Taoist Desolate Martial has said that, I won't decline. Although I've drunk the good wine of Dragon Tiger sect before, I've never had my fill of it. I can finally drink to my heart's content today. Take a seat. Su Zimo gestured with a nod. Tao Yao arrived beside the Valley Master of Blaze Columbus Valley and moved out a seat. Thank you. The Valley Master of Blaze Columbus Valley laughed and sat down comfortably. Initially, the atmosphere in the hall was a little tense. But now the atmosphere was much livelier after that exchange. Many cultivators were relieved as well. Cultivators from other sects such as Dark Ghost sect, Seven Kills sect and Blood Mist sect thought to themselves, legend has it that Desolate Martial is decisive in killing like a fiend. Now that I think about it, he seems rather easygoing. Master, you're worrying too much. Dao Lord Black Leather sent a voice transmission as well. Seems like Desolate Martial is smart and has no intention of offending us. The sect master of Dark Ghost sect said nothing. Actually, the current situation did not prove anything. Stellar Luna sect, Blaze Columbus Valley and the Murong family did not have any deep feuds with Su Zimo to begin with. However, it was different for them. More than 10 years ago, they sent a conjoint body mighty figure of their sect to kill Desolate Martial. A few days ago outside Pingyang town, their cultivators even arrived nearby to covet Desolate Martial's belongings. That was a huge taboo. As the sect master of Dark Ghost sect hesitated, Seven Kills sect stood out. Similar to the sect master of Stellar Luna sect, the sect master of Seven Kills sect revealed a smile and cupped his fists. Congratulations on entering the Dharma characteristic realm, fellow Taoist Desolate Martial. You have established the martial Tao and it's a blessing for all living beings. This is an eternal achievement. Under normal circumstances, Su Zimo should accord this person a seat right now. However, at that moment, Su Zimo was expressionless and merely looked at the sect master of Seven Kills sect in silence, leaving him there. The smile on the face of the sect master of Seven Kills sect froze. The group of cultivators had just relaxed when they suddenly felt a sense of trepidation, as though a calamity was about to descend upon them. The atmosphere in the hall suddenly turned tense. Back then, one of the 6 conjoint body mighty figures that encircled Su Zimo was from Seven Kills sect. There were also cultivators of Seven Kills sect outside Pingyang town. Dao Lord Desolate Martial, The sect master of Seven Kills sect looked awkward. Just as he was about to continue, Su Zimo retracted his gaze and turned to look at the sect master of Heaven Motion sect who was not far away. It's been more than 10 years. How have you been, sect master? Su Zimo smiled gently. More than 10 years ago, the the sect master of Heaven Motion sect promised him that he would write off his feud with Su Zimo from then on and would not cause trouble for the latter. Later on, Heaven Motion sect fulfilled their promise and did not send any cultivators to Pingyang town. The sect master of Heaven Motion sect froze for a moment and even felt flattered, saying hurriedly, "You're welcome, fellow Taoist. Take a seat." Su Zimo nodded. Tao Yao moved a chair and placed it beside the sect master of Heaven Motion sect. The sect master of Seven Kills sect stood at the side and could neither advance nor retreat. His face flushed red and purple as he felt a burning sensation. A clear distinction between gratitude and hatred. Two words flashed through the sect master of Stellar Luna sect's mind. Su Zimo's attitude towards them was completely different from his attitude towards the sect master of Seven Kills sect. Although they were all here with the intention of befriending Su Zimo, it was most likely going to be fruitless for Dark Ghost sect, Seven Kills sect and the other sects. Desolate Marshal, what's the meaning of this? An elder of Seven Kills sect could not hold it in any longer and stood out. Killing intent surged in his eyes as he said coldly, "Our sect master is here personally to extend his congratulations. How can we allow a young kid like you to humiliate us?" Su Zimo's expression turned cold and his gaze intensified. "You want to kill me?" Su Zimo's spirit perception was the most sensitive to killing intent. Seven Kills sect had once sent a conjoined body mighty figure to kill him. That debt had yet to be settled and this Seven Kills sect elder still dared to harbor killing intent towards him. "You must have a death wish." Exhaling, Su Zimo raised two fingers and conjured a sword art, slashing towards the Seven Kills sect elder. Chi. A bedazzling sword beam burst forth, creating a vast expanse of white. The Seven Kills sect elder was alarmed. He had not expected that Su Zimo would be so domineering as to kill in public in front of so many sects and factions. In a moment of distraction, the heaven-slaying sword Chi crossed the void and entered his head. Poof! The Seven Kills sect elder was sliced into two and died on the spot. Chapter 1238 Unreasonable Demand. Chapter 1238 Unreasonable Demand. Decisive to kill. Who would have thought that Dao Lord Desolate Marshal was still chatting idly earlier on and would kill in the blink of an eye? It was only at this moment that the crowd realized how strong Su Zimo was. The sect master of Seven Kills sect stood at the side and could not react in time as he watched the elder beside him die on the spot. At that moment what he felt was not anger but fear. The white sword Chi brushed past him. Even he could not react to it, let alone the elder beside him. In other words, if the sword Chi were to slash at him, he would be a dead man. Unknowingly, the sect master of Seven Kills sect broke out in cold sweat. However, due to his identity, he pretended to be calm but could not say anything. Although the massive palace was filled with cultivators from the 9 upper sects, for gentry clans and 2 aristocratic families, none of them dared to speak. Everyone kept mum out of fear. That single sword strike shocked all the cultivators present. The sect masters of Stellar Luna sect, Blaze Columbus Valley and the other upper sects were already seated and were naturally watching coldly by the sidelines. As for the sect masters of Dark Ghost sect, Blood Mist sect and the other upper sects, they exchanged glances. Although they were displeased, they could not say anything. Firstly, they feared Su Zimo's methods. They were certain that if they stood out right now, Dao Lord Desolate Marshal would definitely dare to kill without any reservations. Secondly, since the sect master of Seven Kills sect did not say anything, there was no need for them to go against Su Zimo because of this. In less than 10 minutes since the upper sects and aristocratic families entered the hall, Su Zimo had complete control of the situation. Su Zimo's expression was unchanged as he continued conversing with the sect masters of the other upper sects, instructing Tao Yao to take a seat for a few sect masters and family masters. Before long, some upper sect masters and aristocratic family masters took their seats. However, the sect masters of 4 upper sects and the family master of 1 gentry clan were left waiting by Su Zimo without giving any orders for their seats. Dark Ghost sect, Seven Kills sect, Blood Mist sect, Mystic Firmament Divine Cult and the Yuan clan. Many cultivators understood instantly. Including Dragon Tiger sect, these 6 major sects had once sent conjoined body mighty figures to kill Dao Lord Desolate Marshal. Furthermore, all 5 of them had once headed to Pingyang town for Desolate Marshal's belongings. Dao Lord Desolate Marshal had no intention of becoming enemies with all the upper sects and aristocratic families. These were his only targets. Most of the upper sect masters sat in their seats. However, the sect masters of Dark Ghost Sect and Seven Kills Sect stood in the main hall in a striking manner. The sect master of Dark Ghost Sect and the others were uneasy, but they forced themselves to remain calm. Su Zimo did not even look at them and merely conversed merrily with the other sect masters and family masters of the upper sects and aristocratic families. He spoke of all sorts of interesting cultivation and ancient legends. They seemed to have been forgotten and were left at the spot, unable to advance or retreat. All of them were the masters of their respective upper sects and families. In the cultivation world of the North region, they had noble statuses and were revered everywhere they went. But now they had to endure such humiliation. Every single breath they remained in the hall was a torture for them. Even so, they did not dare to flick their sleeves and leave. At the very least, from the looks of it, Dao Lord Desolate Marshal had no intention of killing them. Otherwise, given Desolate Marshal's temperament, he would have attacked long ago instead of dragging things out. However, they did not know if Desolate Marshal would kill them if they left now. None of them dared to attempt and take the risk. The situation was pressing and the five of them could only endure. A long time later, Su Zimo shifted his gaze towards the five of them. Dark Ghost Sect, Seven Kills Sect, Blood Mist Sect, Mystic Firmament Divine Cult and Yuan Clan. Su Zimo asked indifferently, "Do you know your crimes?" His voice was neither fast nor slow. However, there was a tremendous pressure that made the five sect masters feel suffocated. The sect master of Dark Ghost Sect grit his teeth and braced himself before shouting, "I don't know how we offended you, Dao Lord. Please explain." The sect master of Mystic Firmament Divine Cult said in a deep voice as well, "Dao Lord Desolate Marshal, Exalted Master Lang Yu, who tried to kill you more than 10 years ago, had already announced his departure from Mystic Firmament Divine Cult. His actions have nothing to do with our sect. He must not admit to something like that. The moment he admitted it, it would be used against him. Dao Lord Desolate Marshal would have an absolute reason to kill them here. Furthermore, that was the truth. Back then, the six conjoined body mighty figures had already announced that they were leaving the sect in advance because they were worried about implicating the sect. If Dark Ghost Sect, Seven Kills Sect and the other upper sects insisted that they had nothing to do with this matter, nobody would have any proof. Oh. Su Zimo replied indifferently and did not get entangled with them on this matter. He continued to ask, "A few days ago, cultivators from your sects were stationed outside Pingyang town. What were you guys up to?" "At that time, we believed that you would definitely be able to advance to the Dharma characteristic realm. Therefore we sent cultivators over to congratulate you." The sect master of Dark Ghost Sect and the others had long prepared excuses. Of course, that reason was filled with loopholes and could only be used as a momentary defense right now. They could not possibly tell Su Zimo that the cultivators of the sects were heading to Pingyang town to steal his treasures after he was dead. None of them would survive if he said that. Oh. Su Zimo nodded. Very good. Although Su Zimo looked so calm, the sect master of Dark Ghost Sect and the others felt their hearts skip a beat. "In that case, you guys did nothing wrong. I was the one who was overthinking." Su Zimo murmured softly, and a white sword chi gradually formed on his fingertip, emitting an extremely sharp aura. Pust. The pupils of the five men constricted and they gasped. At that moment they felt the aura of death. Not good. Desolate Marshal wanted to kill. The moment that thought crossed his mind, the sect master of Mystic Firmament Divine Cult was scared out of his wits and blurted, "I'm guilty. I'm guilty." Oh. Su Zimo smiled. The sect master of Mystic Firmament Divine Cult felt his mind race as he gulped. "No matter what, Exalted Master Lang Yu was a mighty figure of my cult. We have an undeniable responsibility." "Right, what should we do then?" Su Zimo asked with a friendly smile. "I am willing to compensate you, Dao Lord." Pausing for a moment, the sect master of Mystic Firmament Divine Cult grit his teeth and said, "I'll compensate you with a perfect grade Dao Lord Dharmic weapon." Su Zimo retracted his smile. "More than 10 years ago, Exalted Master Lang Yu nearly killed me. Sect Master, do you mean that my life is only worth a perfect grade Dao Lord Dharmic weapon?" And no. The sect master of Mystic Firmament Divine Cult panicked and cold sweat poured down his forehead. "We'll hand over another 100 grade 6 elixirs and Dao Lord Dharmic weapons." Grade 6 elixirs were elixirs that only Dharma characteristic Dao Lords could consume. They were extremely powerful and difficult to refine. Each elixir was precious. The fact that the sect master of Mystic Firmament Divine Cult was willing to produce 100 of them was proof of his sincerity. Su Zimo's expression was unchanged as he shook his head. 1,000 grade 6 elixirs and 1,000 Dao Lord Dharmic weapons above superior grade. 10,000 tons of spirit stones as well. Even the sect master of Stellar Luna sect and the others were shocked, let alone the sect master of Mystic Firmament Divine Cult. This was truly an unreasonable demand. Chapter 1239 Letter from the Middle Continent. Chapter 1239 Letter from the Middle Continent. Dao Lord, 100 grade 6 elixirs and 100 Dao Lord Dharmic weapons are already our limit. The sect master of Mystic Firmament Divine Cult lamented internally and could not help but say, I really can't afford 1,000 grade 6 elixirs and 1,000 superior grade Dao Lord Dharmic weapons. Su Zimo said, it's fine if you can't afford it. You can use spirit herbs, immortal fruits and universal treasures as a replacement. Xiaoning said at the right time from the side, spirit herbs such as the yellow dragon heaven grass, dark bamboo, 10,000-year lingji, silverlight fruit, true essence lotus and skunda fruit will do as well. She was an elixir refinement grandmaster to begin with and naturally knew the ingredients required for grade 6 elixirs instantly. Su Zimo said, Mystic Firmament Divine Cult and Dragon Tiger Sect are both upper sections. With their 10,000-year foundation, Dragon Tiger Sect has way more than that. Are you sure Mystic Firmament Divine Cult can't afford it? The sect master of Mystic Firmament Divine Cult was on the verge of tears. Although Mystic Firmament Divine Cult could afford it, it would definitely be a huge blow. That single move would cost half of their foundation that was passed down for tens of thousands of years. It was too ruthless. The sect master of Stellar Luna sect and the others were equally shocked. With that, Mystic Firmament Divine Cult would definitely suffer great losses. It would take at least 10,000 years for them to recover. Suddenly, the sect master of Dark Ghost sect spoke, if our sect hands over those items, our grudge with you will naturally call it even. Su Zimo replied indifferently, as long as you guys don't provoke me in the future, I won't cause trouble for you guys either. All right. The sect master of Dark Ghost sect nodded. With that promise we'll give it our all. It'll be our congratulatory gift for fellow Taoist Desolate Martial's advancement to the Dharma characteristic realm. With the sect master of Dark Ghost sect making the first move, 7 Kills sect, Blood Mist sect and Yuan clan agreed readily as well. The sect master of Mystic Firmament Divine Cult could only submit as well. Dao Lord, there's definitely no way we can take out so many treasures right now. We've got to return to the sect and prepare for it. I'll give you a month. Su Zimo said slowly, I'll pay a personal visit after that deadline. The sect master of Mystic Firmament Divine Cult chuckled dryly. That was a blatant threat. After a personal visit by Su Zimo, Dragon Tiger sect was removed from the North region. How could Mystic Firmament Divine Cult defend against that? Dao Lord Desolate Martial truly lives up to his reputation. Despite facing so many sects and factions alone, he's still able to control the situation. He's even more terrifying than I imagined. An elder of Stellar Luna sect lamented and sent a voice transmission with his spirit consciousness. The sect master of Stellar Luna sect replied with a voice transmission as well. Now that Dragon Tiger sect of the 10 upper sects of the North region is gone, Ethereal Peak is probably about to rise. With so many resources and treasures gathered at Ethereal Peak, the foundation of that sect will no longer be weaker than our upper sects. That's right. What Ethereal Peak lacks right now is a conjoint body mighty figure. Once they have a conjoint body mighty figure guarding them, there's a high chance they will become a new upper sect in the upper sect meet. Dao Lord Desolate Martial alone is comparable to 10 conjoint body mighty figures. The sect master of Dark Ghost sect and the others did not linger long in Dragon Tiger sect and left dejectedly. Under Su Zimo's aura, they felt extremely pressured and could only leave as soon as possible. As for the sect master of Stellar Luna sect, the Valley Master of Blaze Columbus Valley, the Master of the Murong family and the others, they stayed in Dragon Tiger sect for a short period of time before leaving. During this month, Su Zimo remained in Dragon Tiger sect. At the end of the month, Dark Ghost Sect, Seven Kills Sect, Blood Mist Sect, Mystic Firmament Divine Cult and Yuan clan visited one after another and offered 1,000 grade 6 elixirs, 1,000 superior grade Dao Lord Dharmic weapons and 10,000 tons of spirit stones respectively. Su Zimo handed all those treasures to Ethereal Peak. None of the items were worthy of his attention. 4 Dharmic weapons, he had his creation Lotus Platform, Mingwang Prayer Beads and Mystic Magnet Mountain. Furthermore, his Green Lotus True Body was comparable to Khanate Dao Lord Dharmic weapons. The only things that interested Su Zimo were the cultivation techniques and secret manuals left behind by Dragon Tiger Sect. Those items were of some use for his prime body to deduce the martial Dao and he had them all moved to Ethereal Peak. After that, Su Zimo stayed temporarily in Ethereal Peak. Monkey and the others continued to dominate the Wild Lion Ridge. A year later, Xiaoning made a move and prepared to return to Elixir Yang Sect in the Middle Continent. Night Spirit offered to escort her. Actually, Xiaoning had already cultivated to the perfected Void Reversion realm. She could protect herself with her current combat strength. However, she did not reject him and agreed with a smile. Su Zimo had long sensed that there was something between them but he did not interfere. Even as a brother, he had not taken good care of Xiaoning all these years. It was all thanks to Night Spirit. Furthermore, it was enough as long as they were both willing parties. After Xiaoning left, Su Zimo continued cultivating in Ethereal Peak. In the blink of an eye, another 5 years passed. Ethereal Peak had been extremely peaceful for the past 5 years. After the battle at Dragon Tiger Sect, everyone knew that Desolate Marshal had advanced to the Dharma characteristic realm. Coupled with the existence of the old monk from Dragon Burial Valley, no one dared to provoke him. However, the cultivation world had changed quite a bit. The most obvious change was that all living beings were able to cultivate. Ethereal Peak alone had recruited more than 1,000 cultivators who cultivated the martial Dao over the years. A series of changes had already happened in the cultivation world of the North region because of Su Zimo's rise. Dragon Tiger Sect was removed. As Ethereal Peak rose, it attracted many cultivators who admired their reputation, golden cores, nascent souls, void reversions and even Dharma characteristic Dao lords wanted to join the sect. Of course, there were still no conjoint body mighty figures. Firstly, Ethereal Peak did not have a conjoint body mighty figure to begin with. Secondly, conjoint body mighty figures ruled over a region and were not bound by sections. Even super sects might not be able to provide resources suitable for conjoint body mighty figures to cultivate, let alone Ethereal Peak. If they wanted to advance further in their cultivations, they might as well explore some ancient ruins or ancestral cave abodes and obtain some opportunities and encounters. As for the Great Zhou dynasty, actually more than 10 years ago, the Great Zhou dynasty had already annexed the Great Yu, Great Xia and Great Shang dynasties to unify the North region. All these years, there were no wars between the dynasties and the citizens rested and practiced martial arts. Under Ji Yaoshua's governance, the injuries left behind by the Witch Gu calamity healed gradually and a peaceful and flourishing scene unfolded. This day, Su Zimo sensed something in his seclusion and woke up. Before long he heard knocking sounds. "Come in," Su Zimo said. Although he had left the sect for many years, his cave abode had always been preserved for him. The door to the cave abode opened and Yan Qi walked in. "Young master," a spirit crane flew in from outside. "It's looking for you." "Oh." Frowning slightly, Su Zimo received the spirit crane. The crane carried a faint fragrance and was clearly made by a woman. He swept his gaze across. The address on the spirit crane indicated the Middle Continent. Opening the spirit crane, Su Zimo read through the contents before long and murmured, "To think that it would be her." "Who?" Yan Qi asked curiously. Su Zimo smiled. "She can forcibly be considered as an old friend that I've once met." Pausing for a moment, he stood up and crushed the spirit crane into dust with a single slap. "I've got to go and make a trip to the Middle Continent." Chapter 1240 Asura in Danger. Chapter 1240, Asura in Danger. What happened that requires you to make a trip personally, young master? Yan Qi asked curiously. Su Zimo replied, "Something happened at Brother Yan's side." Yan Qi was surprised. "Asura Yan Beichin?" "Yes." Su Zimo nodded as he reminisced about the past. After the Thousand Crane Tea Party, Dharma characteristic Dao lords of many sects and factions arrived and entered 100 Refinement sect, prepared to cause trouble for him. When the Asura heard about this, he rushed over without hesitation. Those Dharma characteristic Dao lords at that time were all renowned figures. Among them, there were even titular disciples such as Dao Lord Immortal Sword and Dao Lord Cloud Rain. Dao Lord Immortal Sword was the number 1 of the previous Dharma characteristic ranking. Dao Lord Cloud Rain was the second of the Dharma characteristic ranking 5,000 years ago. As for the Asura, he had only just advanced to the Dharma characteristic realm. Despite that, he was fearless and invoked a massive battle against the 9 Dharma characteristic Dao lords outside 100 Refinement sect. That battle was earth-shaking. 6 of the 9 Dao lords were killed by the Asura. Although a large part of the reason was because Dao Lord Immortal Sword was severely injured when he fought Dao Lord Extreme Fire back in 100 Refinement sect, the powerful methods displayed by the Asura were still shocking. Su Zimo watched the battle from afar. That battle was still unforgettable. At that time he even asked the Asura about his injuries. However, the latter merely brushed it off casually. To think that the injuries left behind by the Asura in that battle had yet to recover. One of the messages on the spirit crane was about how the Asura's essence spirit was injured. An injury to the essence spirit was extremely difficult to heal. Later on, when Su Zimo caused a huge trouble in the Dao inheritance ground and the situation was critical, many 100 Refinement sect cultivators suggested that they draw a line between them and Su Zimo. However, the Asura disregarded the injuries of his essence spirit in 100 Refinement sect, wanting to protect Su Zimo and escape to the end of the world. An elder of Elixir Yang sect admired the Asura's temperament and gifted him the 9 Revolutions Soul Return Elixir that was preserved for many years. The 9 Revolutions Soul Return Elixir was an ancient elixir that had been lost a long time ago. It was extremely rare and was the best healing medicine for essence spirits. It was no exaggeration to say that it was a priceless treasure. The Asura received the 9 Revolutions Soul Return Elixir but did not consume it himself. Instead, he gave it to someone else. It was that person who sent the spirit crane. In the battle outside 100 Refinement sect, 3 of the 9 Dao lords survived. Apart from the 2 titular disciples who managed to escape, Dao Lord Immortal Sword and Dao Lord Cloud Rain, this was the 3rd person to survive. She was Sword Sect's Qin Pian Ran. At that time, Qin Pian Ran was betrayed by Dao Lord Immortal Sword and wanted to die. Although the Asura had never said it, Su Zimo could tell that he was compassionate. The Asura who achieved his Dao through killing and possessed a merciless saber technique was a sentimental person. Dao Lord Immortal Sword, who was known to be righteous and loyal, was a heartless person. That was truly an immense irony. Su Zimo had long sensed that the Asura was treating Qin Pian Ran differently. However, he did not expect the Asura to feed Qin Pian Ran the precious 9 Revolutions Soul Return Elixir. Of course, the spirit crane was not sent only because of the Asura's injuries. It was because another monster incarnate in Asura sect wanted to replace Yen Beichen as the new titular disciple and take over the title of the Asura. That titular disciple sent a challenge letter to the Asura. Given the Asura's current state, he might be able to win against ordinary Dharma characteristic Dao lords. However, he would definitely lose against this monster incarnate of the Fiend sects. Qin Pian Ran naturally hoped that Su Zimo could head to the Middle Continent and help the Asura tide through this calamity. At the end of the spirit crane, Qin Pian Ran even mentioned that she had sent the spirit crane behind the Asura's back. Given the Asura's temperament, he would not plead for help even if he met with such a calamity. However, she was worried and did not want anything to happen to him. She had already severed her connection with the Immortal sects and Sword sect. However, the Asura had always been alone without any siblings or friends. On the other hand, he had many enemies. After much thought, she concluded that Su Zimo was the only one who could help the Asura, and that was why she sent the spirit crane. As for Su Zimo, he decided to head to the Middle Continent right away without any hesitation upon receiving the spirit crane. If he knew that the Asura's essence spirit was injured and had yet to recover, he would have set off long ago to look for medicine that could heal it, let alone the fact that the Asura was in trouble. When do you intend to leave, young master? Yanqi asked. Now. Su Zimo was already heading out of the cave abode. I'll accompany you wherever you want to go, young master. Outside the cave abode, Tao Yao rushed over as well. There will definitely be trivial affairs along the way and I can help with those by your side. Su Zimo could sense that Tao Yao was merely reluctant to part with him. There's no need. He shook his head. Both of you will stay here. In a few days, a child around 5 or 6 years old will come to Ethereal Peak. You can just stay by his side. Ah. Tao Yao froze for a moment. Before he could react, Su Zimo had already leaped up and lightning flashed around his body as he disappeared from the spot. Worried about the Asura, Su Zimo wanted to head to the middle continent as soon as possible. Who is the boy that young master is referring to? Tao Yao blinked and asked Nian Qi with a lost expression. I don't know either. She shook her head. We'll know in a couple of days. Let's just wait here. 5 days later. At the foot of Ethereal Peak, a child around 5 or 6 years old arrived. He had delicate features and his eyes were clear, deep as the sea, as though they contained endless secrets. Where did this child come from? It's truly not easy for this child to be able to arrive here safely in this deep forest. A few Foundation establishment cultivators guarding the entrance of Ethereal Peak looked over with surprised expressions. The child stood still in front of the mountain gate, gazing at a gigantic stone gate not far away in a daze. What? You want to join Ethereal Peak as a disciple? A Foundation establishment cultivator laughed and followed the child's gaze. This stone gate is used to test the spirit root. I heard that when our sect's senior desolate marshal joined the sect, he caused the stone gate to explode. This current one was built later on. When he heard those discussions, the child recalled the past and smiled. The fact that this child is able to arrive here means that he has affinity with Ethereal Peak. Should we let him test his spirit root first? A Foundation establishment cultivator said, Child, pass through that stone gate. Let's take a look. The child smiled without saying anything and walked towards the stone gate. There was no reaction from the stone gate. A few Foundation establishment cultivators shook their heads slightly with disappointed expressions. One of them said, It's fine if you don't have a spirit root. Even if you can't do immortality cultivation, you can cultivate the martial Dao. Child, I'm a martial Dao cultivator. The person revealed his strong arm and said, I've already cultivated to the 3rd transformation of the martial Dao, bronze skin, steel bones. Even superior grade weapons can barely hurt me. As he said that, the cultivator took out a saber and slashed his arm, leaving merely a white scar. The cultivator had a smug expression as he handed the saber to the child. Child, why don't you try and slash me? How old is this child? Can he even lift this saber? The others shook their heads. Right then the child received the saber and squeezed gently with his pink and fair palm, crushing the saber into an iron ball. Thereafter he rubbed his hands together. The iron ball turned into gravel and scattered down. He rubbed the metal like it was mud. The cultivators at the entrance were dumbfounded with shocked expressions. They could no longer speak. Chapter 1241 Reunion. Chapter 1241, Reunion. That saber was a middle-grade spirit weapon, but it was turned into sand by the child's tender palm. Many cultivators looked at the child as though they were looking at a ghost. Could this child be transformed from a fiend demon? A thought crossed the mind of a Foundation establishment cultivator. Right then 2 figures sped over from Ethereal Peak like a golden couple. It was Tao Yao and Nian Qi. For the past few days, the 2 of them had been waiting near the sect entrance and rushed over the moment they heard any activity. Their gazes landed on the child and they shuddered. The child gave them a familiar feeling. If one focused their attention, they would be able to tell that the child's features were extremely similar to Su Zimo's. The only reason why they could not be seen clearly was because they were not fully grown out. The child was the martial Dao true body. Su Zimo's prime body. After cultivating for 6 years at the bottom of the Dragon Burial Valley, his prime body had already cultivated to the 9th transformation of the martial Dao, perfected Dragon Elephant Force. Given the strength of the prime body, even a Khanate spirit weapon would be shattered, let alone a middle-grade spirit weapon. The descent of his prime body was a variant to begin with. It was not within the reincarnation cycle nor heavenly secrets. The prime body inherited everything of Su Zimo and specialized in the martial Dao. However, he could only continue to deduce if he wanted to continue cultivating the martial Dao after the 9th transformation. Neither the Green Lotus True Body nor the Dragon True Body had the energy to do so. Neither of them were as suitable as the prime body to comprehend the martial Dao either. Therefore his prime body left the Dragon Burial Valley and arrived at Ethereal Peak. He was prepared to memorize Ethereal Peak's cultivation techniques and secret skills while cultivating there before deducing. "Young master." Tao Yao shouted in a testing manner. "That's me." The prime body nodded. Although he was only 6 years old, the aura he exuded was the same as Su Zimo. There was no hint of childishness. "I'll leave for Pingyang Town after cultivating in Ethereal Peak for a period of time. Do you want to follow me?" The prime body asked Tao Yao. "Sure." Tao Yao agreed readily. He was not familiar with many people in Ethereal Peak. It was more comfortable for him to reside in Pingyang Town instead. To him, Pingyang Town was his home. The prime body intended to return to the starting point of his cultivation as well. He will return to that courtyard to continue deducing the martial Tao in order to perfect it. That courtyard held an unusual meaning for Su Zimo. Middle Continent. Su Zimo did not rest at all. From the moment he left Ethereal Peak to the crossing of the North region and entered the Middle Continent, it merely took 3 days. That speed was already comparable to a conjoint body mighty figure. Even though the spirit crane said that the monster incarnate of the Fiend sex challenged the Asura to a fight a month later, Su Zimo was still worried and rushed over early. Su Zimo determined his direction and continued on his way. A day later, he arrived at the depths of a mountain range and looked at the dense bamboo forest before him. Descending, he paused for a moment before entering. In the bamboo forest, there was only the sound of wind rustling the bamboo leaves, making it seem tranquil and peaceful. Not long after, Su Zimo's gaze penetrated the layers of bamboo shadows and saw a spacious empty space where a simple wooden house Saturday. A figure leaned against the door. The figure's black hair fell casually onto his shoulders and he had a cold expression. A jar of strong wine was placed beside his feet as a long saber with a bloody aura laid on his knees. The Asura Yen Beichen. Yen Beichen had just raised his wine jar and was about to drink it in one gulp when he suddenly frowned. As though he sensed something, he said indifferently, "Hatred, the month isn't up yet. You're early." Although his essence spirit was injured, he could still sense that someone was peeping from the bamboo forest. However, he did not notice who it was. Su Zimo strode out of the bamboo forest and arrived before the empty space, smiling at Yen Beichen. Yen Beichen was first stunned. Immediately after, his eyes revealed the joy of reuniting after a long time and he could not help but laugh. "Haha, so it's Brother Su." "Brother Yen." Su Zimo called and strode forward. "Come sit." Yen Beichen tugged at Su Zimo's arm and pulled him to sit down. He took out another jar of strong wine from his storage bag and handed it to Su Zimo with a smile. "I was worried that no one would accompany me to drink when you came. You're really on time." The two of them bumped their wine jars and drank a mouthful of strong wine. "I haven't congratulated you properly for creating your martial Tao. Now's the perfect time. Let's drink till we're drunk." Yen Beichen laughed again. Su Zimo lamented internally. After many years, Yen Beichen had changed significantly. He was now filled with warmth. The initial blood stench he reeked had become extremely faint, almost imperceptible even. Unsurprisingly, his change should be attributed to a single person. Right then, a white-bloused woman walked out of the wooden house. She had smooth skin and watery eyes. Her brows were raised slightly and she exuded a heroic aura. Su Zimo stood up and pretended to be surprised. "My, isn't this fellow Taoist Qin from Sword Sect?" There was naturally no way Su Zimo could expose the fact that Qin Pianran sent him a message behind the Asura's back, hence he feigned ignorance. Qin Pianran smiled gently with a hint of gratitude in her eyes. Just as she was about to speak, Yen Beichen waved it off. "Brother Su, stop pretending. Pianran should be the one who called you here, right?" Su Zimo was momentarily stunned. Yen Beichen continued, "Your timing is too coincidental. I reckon that Pianran must have asked you to come behind my back because she's worried about me." Yen Beichen was a smart man. He had guessed it the moment he saw Su Zimo. "Beichen, I'm sorry." Qin Pianran lowered her head slightly. Aye. Su Zimo knew that there was no need to continue hiding the truth and nodded. "Fellow Taoist Qin is worried about your safety. There's no need for you to blame her." "Why would I blame Pianran if she's worried about me?" Yen Beichen burst into laughter and turned to tug at Qin Pianran's palm. "It's been a long time since I've been reunited with my brother. I'm more than happy and can't thank you enough instead." Qin Pianran blushed. She felt embarrassed that the two of them were so intimate in front of Su Zimo. Su Zimo smiled. It seems like you've been doing well all these years, big brother. I'm even envious that you have someone to accompany you every day. After a brief pause, Su Zimo continued, however bro, there's something I have to say about you. Why didn't you tell me that your essence spirit was injured? There's no point telling you. The Asura shook his head. There's no way to heal it. When she heard that, Qin Pianran's expression darkened. It's all my fault. If I hadn't consumed the 9 Revolutions Soul Return Elixir back then, Beichen's injuries would have healed a long time ago. It's fine, I'm doing all right now, aren't I? Yen Beichen did not mind at all and waved it off. But, your future cultivation. Qin Pianran wanted to speak but stopped, afraid that she would agitate Yen Beichen. With an injured essence spirit, it was difficult for one's cultivation to advance. Who doesn't die? Even for conjoint body mighty figures, they will still die 20,000 years later. Yen Beichen said, as long as I'm with you, a day is equivalent to 10,000 years. I still have thousands of years of lifespan. In that perspective, I'll live longer than even Mahayana patriarchs. Qin Pianran's eyes were bloodshot and she lowered her head in silence. Chapter 1242, Ancient Fiend Emperor. Chapter 1242, Ancient Fiend Emperor. Su Zimo asked, Brother Yen, when you mentioned hatred earlier, that's the monster incarnate of Asura sect. Yes. Yen Beichen nodded with a slightly grim expression. Dao Lord Hatred became famous much earlier than me and obtained half of the Hatred Sutra. His combat strength is heaven-defying and he's invincible in the Fiend sects. The Hatred Sutra. Su Zimo narrowed his eyes. The Dao Heart Fiend Seed Sutra's half-martial ancestor Imperial Sky had memories of the Hatred Sutra. The Hatred Sutra was created by one of the most terrifying Fiend Emperors of the ancient era and was known as the Fiend Emperor Hatred. The fact that he held the title of the Emperor of the Fiend Dao was proof of how strong the Fiend Emperor was. Legend has it that the Fiend Emperor Hatred was initially unknown. Later on, due to a massive change, his personality changed drastically and he hated the world, all living beings and everything in the world. Under that intense hatred, the Emperor exploded completely, slaying immortals, Buddhas and the primordial 9 races in a domineering manner. Eventually he created the shocking ancient Hatred Sutra. That cultivation technique was known as the #1 mystic classic of the Fiend sects. Its might was imaginable. Although the Fiend Emperor Hatred was invincible, his life was extremely miserable and he spent it in hatred. Even when he was conferred the title of an ancient emperor, he did not have anyone close to him or any close friends. His ending was tragic as well. His hatred eventually reached its limits and he even began to hate himself. In the end, he committed suicide in Tianhuang mainland after the ancient war, leaving behind a regrettable legend. The fact that a Fiend Emperor met with such an end caused countless people to lament. Yen Beichen continued, Dao Lord Hatred entered a tomb by accident and obtained half of the Hatred Sutra. With that, he rose and established a Dao title, Hatred. Everyone knows what he's thinking. He wants to inherit everything from this ancient Fiend Emperor and become the new Fiend Emperor Hatred. The fact that he was already invincible among the Fiend sects with just half of the Hatred Sutra was proof of how terrifying that cultivation technique was. Almost all paragons and monster incarnates had encountered many opportunities to be able to cultivate to that level. Su Zimo was not the only one. Yen Beichen said, later on, I joined Asura sect and obtained the Saber Emperor's inheritance and many other opportunities. I comprehended the Asura Sutra and entered the Void Reversion realm. During the fight for the title of Asura, I fought against Hatred who was still at the Void Reversion realm at that time and was lucky to win by half a move. Although Yen Beichen said those things calmly, Su Zimo could sense the intensity of the killing intent from those words. Su Zimo had some understanding of Yen Beichen. There were only 2 people who obtained the Saber Emperor's inheritance, him and Yen Beichen. Yen Beichen's talent was definitely not weaker than his. The moment Yen Beichen entered the Dharma characteristic realm, he could conjure a heaven and earth Dharma characteristic that was 85 feet tall. That was enough to show how strong Yen Beichen was. Even so, Yen Beichen merely won by half a move back then. Yen Beichen continued, after the fight for the title of Asura ended, Hatred disappeared and never appeared again. Nobody knew where he went. More than 10 years ago, Hatred reappeared and shocked all the Fiend sects. Su Zimo had a vague guess and murmured, could it be? Yen Beichen nodded. He obtained the Complete Hatred Sutra. The rebirth of the Hatred Sutra. This meant that a new Fiend Emperor hatred was about to rise. When hatred returned, he was already at the perfected Dharma characteristic realm. Starting from Asura sect, he overwhelmed the Dharma characteristic paragons of the 7 Fiend sects. The titular disciple of Illusion Fiend cult was defeated in less than 10 moves. After that, the other titular disciples of the Fiend sects went silent and avoided the battle. Hatred was conferred as the #1 saber of the Fiend sects. It was not surprising for him to possess such combat strength if he inherited the Complete Hatred Sutra. Yen Beichen had a grim expression. Notwithstanding the fact that my essence spirit is injured and my combat strength has decreased significantly, even if I was in my peak condition, I might not be a match for him. Now that hatred has returned, no one can stop him anymore. It was no wonder why Yen Beichen said that. During their battle back then, hatred merely lost to him by a single move after comprehending half of the Hatred Sutra. How scary was hatred now that he had the Complete Hatred Sutra? On the other hand, there was no fear in Su Zimo's eyes. After experiencing the Dao inheritance ground, cultivating for close to 5,000 years and fusing with more than 30 ancient inheritances, Su Zimo believed that he could suppress all his peers and overwhelm all strong foes. Instead, there was a hint of anticipation in his heart to experience this #1 ancient Fiend Sutra. Su Zimo asked in a low voice, "What's the height of Dao Lord Hatred's heaven and earth Dharma characteristic?" Dao Lord Hatred was already at the perfected Dharma characteristic realm. Even if he knew that Dao Lord Hatred had condensed a 90 feet Dharma characteristic, Su Zimo would not be surprised. "I don't know." Unexpectedly, Yen Beichen shook his head and gave that answer. Su Zimo was momentarily stunned. Yen Beichen said, "That's the reason why he's so terrifying. Ever since he returned, he fought several times and suppressed many Dharma characteristic monster incarnates of the Fiend sections. However, he has never used his heaven and earth Dharma characteristic." Su Zimo narrowed his eyes. It was normal for him to not use his heaven and earth Dharma characteristic to suppress ordinary Dharma characteristic Dao Lords. However, the people that Dao Lord Hatred suppressed were titular disciples of the Fiend sects. It was a little terrifying to be able to suppress the titular disciple of Illusion Fiend cult without even using his heaven and earth Dharma characteristic. Pianran, actually, there's no need for you to alarm Zimo. After a while, Yen Beichen smiled. That's because I had no intention of fighting against hatred to begin with. Qin Pianran and Su Zimo froze for a moment, confused. Yen Beichen explained, "If hatred wants to challenge me, it's to fight for the title of the Asura. I've already decided to give up on that title." Yen Beichen's palm caressed the long saber on his knees. "If hatred wants the title of the Asura as well as this Asura saber, I'll give both to him unreservedly." Su Zimo was silent. Under normal circumstances, given Yen Beichen's character, he would definitely not display weakness even if he was injured. To think that he would make such a choice. However, on second thought, it was understandable that Yen Beichen would make that choice. That was because the Asura was worried. When an Asura that achieved the Dao through killing had attachments, he was no longer an Asura. It had to be said that Yen Beichen had changed a lot over the years. "Can you bear to?" Su Zimo asked. Yen Beichen smiled. "These are just empty titles. The only thing I'm slightly reluctant about is this Asura saber that has fought by my side for many years. However, it doesn't matter as well." There was a hint of freedom and magnanimity in Yen Beichen's tone. It was a true form of letting go. "Zimo, I'm tired. I don't want to continue fighting in the cultivation world." Yen Beichen said, "All these years, Pianran and I have been living far away from secular affairs and strife in this bamboo forest. I've received an unprecedented tranquility in my heart and I'm delighted. From now on, without the shackles of the Asura, Pianran and I will look for a paradise and live in seclusion. No matter what calamities or battles there are outside, it will be none of my business." Yen Beichen meant that he wanted to let go of all attachments and he was not going to fight against hatred. He did not wish for Su Zimo to fight in his place against hatred either. "I understand." Su Zimo nodded. "Brother, I respect your decision." Chapter 1243 Dao Lord Hatred. Chapter 1243, Dao Lord Hatred. For the next period of time, Su Zimo stayed in the bamboo forest and was in no hurry to leave. Although Yen Beichen had already decided to withdraw from the fight in the cultivation world, Su Zimo was still worried about his essence spirit's injuries. The next day he sent out a few messenger spirit cranes. They flew towards Elixir Yang sect, 100 Refinement sect, 1000 Crane sect, Puppet sect, Ethereal Peak and other sects and factions. All of those sects and factions had Su Zimo's kin and friends. Half a month later. Although the sects and factions sent messages one after another, none of them had any solution. Although Qin Pianran did not say anything, she could not conceal her disappointment. "Don't be hasty," Su Zimo replied, "there's still no news from Xiaoning. She's already a titular disciple of Elixir Yang sect. I'm sure she'll have a solution." Another 5 days passed. The spirit crane of Elixir Yang sect flew into the bamboo forest. Qin Pianran hurried over and opened the spirit crane eagerly. An injury to the essence spirit is extremely difficult to heal, and the most effective elixir is the 9 Revolution Soul Return elixir. However, this elixir has long been lost and Elixir Yang sect doesn't have it either. At that point, Qin Pianran's eyes dimmed. A large part of the reason why Yen Beichen was in such a state was because he wanted to save her. She felt extremely guilty. Su Zimo removed a small bottle tied to the spirit crane's leg. "These are 7 elixirs that Xiaoning sent over. They have some healing effect on the essence spirit as well. You can give it a shot." Although those elixirs could not compare to the 9 Revolution Soul Return elixir, they could only give it a shot. For the next few days, Yen Beichen attempted to consume an elixir daily. However, despite trying all 7 elixirs, his essence spirit showed no signs of recovering. "Brother, fellow Taoist Qin, don't be anxious," Su Zimo said. "I've already asked Ethereal Peak to keep an eye out for the various auction houses and marketplaces. If there's any news of the 9 Revolution Soul Return elixir, I'll definitely help you guys get it." "That's the only way." Qin Pianran sighed internally. Another 3 days passed. This day, Su Zimo and the other 2 were chatting casually in the wooden house. All of a sudden, Su Zimo felt something and turned around. "What's wrong with that?" Qin Pianran asked and followed Su Zimo's gaze instinctively. A figure stood in the bamboo forest. "Ah!" Qin Pianran shuddered and exclaimed. She was a Dharma characteristic Dao Lord of Sword sect to begin with. Be it in terms of combat strength or temperament, she was superior. Even a conjoint body mighty figure or a Mahayana patriarch would not cause her to lose her composure as such. However, that figure was truly way too terrifying. Just by standing there, it was like a gigantic black hole that emitted an endless hatred that could devour everything. The hatred could even affect a cultivator's mind. If one's Dao heart was weak and tainted by that hatred, it would be crippled and they would lose without fighting. Dao Lord hatred. Su Zimo was the only one who could maintain his composure against the envelopment of that hatred. Even Yen Beichen frowned. Su Zimo looked at Dao Lord hatred calmly. Dao Lord hatred had an average build and wore black robes. His black hair draped over his shoulders and his eyes were dark as he walked over slowly, dragging a saber that was shrouded by Fiend Qi. The saber sliced through the ground silently, leaving a clear scar. Su Zimo looked at the saber and his pupils constricted. That saber was extremely terrifying. Even he felt waves of shock from the hatred that was gathered. "Hatred, you sure are punctual." Yen Beichen spoke. "You came in a month indeed, not a single day later." "Hee hee." Dao Lord Hatred laughed and walked into the wooden house without replying or pausing. "You're injured." He swept his gaze and saw Yen Beichen's condition. "It's just a small injury." Yen Beichen replied indifferently. Dao Lord Hatred grinned. "To think that you would end up in such a state as well, Yen Beichen. There's always someone better out there. In this generation there are many paragons and monster incarnates. There are many people who can hurt me, so I'm naturally nothing much," Yen Beichen replied. "No." Dao Lord Hatred shook his head and pointed at Yen Beichen. "I'm not referring to your injuries but your heart. Your heart is no longer the heart of the Asura." Yen Beichen was silent. Su Zimo praised internally. Without exchanging blows or testing the waters, Dao Lord Hatred saw through Yen Beichen's reality. Tisk, tsk. Dao Lord Hatred's gaze shifted and landed on Qin Pianran. "What a pity. Everyone says that a gentle place is the tomb of a hero. To think that even you, Yen Beichen, can't escape it. He closed his eyes and sniffed gently before nodding. Yes, not bad. A little sharp, a cultivator of sword sect. Qin Pianran could not sit still. For some reason, she felt uneasy in front of Dao Lord Hatred. Suddenly, Dao Lord Hatred opened his eyes and said with a fake smile, Yen Beichen, how about I kill that woman? Hatred, what are you trying to do? Yen Beichen's eyes widened. Dao Lord Hatred laughed and said leisurely, I'm doing this for your own good. The only way to have the Asura return is by having this woman killed. Hatred. Yen Beichen hollered softly, I admit defeat for this battle. You can have the title of Asura as well as this Asura saber. I have nothing to do with Asura sect, the Fiend sects and the Cultivation world anymore. Admit defeat. Dao Lord Hatred had a regretful expression and sighed. It's truly hard to imagine that those words would come from you, Yen Beichen. Thereafter he laughed and shook his head. Yen Beichen, you're truly way too naive. Do you think you can just back off from the fight in the cultivation world just like that? Since you've started cultivating, there are many choices that are not up to you. Yen Beichen took a deep breath of air. Hatred, what do you want? Of course, it's to retrieve the Asura title. Dao Lord Hatred replied. Yen Beichen frowned. I've already said that I've admitted defeat. From now on you'll be the Asura. No, no, no. Dao Lord Hatred had a mocking expression as he waved his finger. It's not that simple. I'll take back the Asura title the same way you snatched it from me. Do you think that I'll let you off just because you admit defeat? Suddenly, Dao Lord Hatred's expression turned menacing and his features were squeezed together, emanating a torrential hatred. I lost everything in the battle for the title of Asura back then. Honor, status, reputation. I've been thinking about you all these years, Yen Beichen. Su Zimo respected Yen Beichen's choice. Therefore he remained silent and watched coldly from the sidelines. However, he had already realized that today's matter would not end peacefully. Dao Lord Hatred was completely fiendish and his mind was affected by the Hatred Sutra. It was hard to tell if Dao Lord Hatred had cultivated the Hatred Sutra or if the sutra had turned him into a fiend. Sensing Dao Lord Hatred's hatred, the fiend saber in his hands trembled slightly as well, as though it was extremely excited and buzzed endlessly. Chapter 1244, Massive Battle. Chapter 1244, Massive Battle. Although all four people present were at the Dharma characteristic realm, the difference between their combat strength was too great. Qin Pianran was definitely a paragon of the Dharma characteristic realm. However, her face was pale and her heart trembled against the hatred released by Dao Lord Hatred. Yen Beichen's essence spirit was injured and he was frowning slightly as well, feeling a sense of pressure. There was a flash of anger in his eyes. If it was more than 10 years ago, he would not have retreated even if his essence spirit was injured and would have fought against Dao Lord Hatred right from the beginning. But now, he held emotional baggage and truly did not want to fight against Dao Lord Hatred anymore. Of course, apart from that, there was another reason why he did not want Su Zimo involved. On the one hand, Dao Lord Hatred was now the #1 saber of the Fiend sects and possessed the inheritance of the Hatred Sutra. He was equivalent to a second Fiend Emperor and had a noble status in the Fiend sects with the protection of countless experts. If Su Zimo were to offend him, it would be equivalent to offending the entire Fiend sects. On the other hand, the outcome of Su Zimo's fight against Dao Lord Hatred was unpredictable. If Su Zimo won, he would end up offending the Fiend sections. If he lost, his outcome would be even worse. No matter the outcome of this battle, it was extremely disadvantageous for Su Zimo. Hatred, at the end of the day, there's no deep-rooted feud between us. Yen Beichen said, if you take away the Asura saber today, the entire cultivation world will understand that you are the true Asura and no one will remember me. Qin Pianran lowered her head in silence. She knew that Yen Beichen's compromise and forbearance was all for her and them. Yen Beichen took a deep breath of air and grit his teeth. As though he had made up his mind about something, he said softly, Hatred, I promise you that I'll leave the cultivation world forever. In the future, Yen Beichen will cease to exist in the cultivation world. Beichen. Qin Pianran exclaimed softly with a hint of heartache. Up till this point of his cultivation, Yen Beichen had never been weaker than anyone. He achieved his Dao through killing and was invincible. His title as the Asura was something that struck fear in the hearts of orthodox cultivators. How could he have ever said anything as such? But now even the Asura had to bow down. Fufu. Dao Lord Hatred laughed and looked at Yen Beichen mockingly, shaking his head. Yen Beichen, you're truly way too naive. In this cultivation world, who can truly retreat just because they want to? How dare the Asura actually think of letting go of everything? How ironic. In the face of Dao Lord Hatred's mockery, Yen Beichen merely remained silent and endured it. As though he thought of something fun, a mocking look flashed through Dao Lord Hatred's eyes. How about this? Kneel in front of me and beg for mercy. How about I let you off after a few good kowtows? Yen Beichen did not move at all and was expressionless. However, veins popped up on his forehead and blood vessels popped out. It was clear that he was emotional. Sensing the struggle in Yen Beichen's heart, the smile in Dao Lord Hatred's eyes intensified. He enjoyed the feeling of being in control of everything and stepping on his former enemies ruthlessly. He loved the joy of humiliating and trampling on them wantonly. He did not care whether Yen Beichen chose to fight or not. If Yen Beichen did not fight, he would make Yen Beichen suffer a fate worse than death. If Yen Beichen were to fight, the only thing awaiting him would be death. Ever since he arrived, he had no intention of letting Yen Beichen off. Right then a chuckle sounded. The laughter carried a hint of mockery and disdain that was rather piercing to Dao Lord Hatred. He turned around slowly and his gaze landed on Su Zimo. Ever since he arrived, this was the first time he was looking at Su Zimo properly. Oh. Dao Lord Hatred revealed a playful expression and asked, "Were you the one laughing earlier on?" It had been a long time since someone dared to provoke him like this. "Zimo?" Yen Beichen shouted with a worried expression. Su Zimo waved it off and said unquestionably, "Brother Yen, leave this matter to me." He could respect Yen Beichen's choice, but he would definitely not watch the latter suffer such humiliation. Dao Lord Hatred came to a realization. "I understand. You're here to help Yen Beichen." Ha 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 ha. Dao Lord Hatred could not help but laugh. He looked at Su Zimo as though he was looking at an idiot and lamented, "Some people really don't know what's good for them. You dare to come and help him without knowing who I am? Do you know who I am?" Su Zimo did not reply and asked instead. "Oh, who are you?" Dao Lord Hatred asked casually. In truth, he did not care who Su Zimo was. In his eyes, the latter was already a dead man. "I'm Desolate Marshal," Su Zimo said indifferently. Desolate Marshal? Dao Lord Hatred was slightly stunned. That Dao title sounded familiar. After a moment of silence, his pupils constricted slightly and his gaze shone brightly. "You're Dao Lord Desolate Marshal who established his martial Dao and condensed two heaven and earth Dharma characteristics." The name Desolate Marshal was known to the world a long time ago. In just a few years after the battle at Dragon Tiger Sect, the news of him condensing two heaven and earth Dharma characteristics had already spread through the middle continent. Dao Lord Hatred had already heard of Desolate Marshal's name the moment he returned. Good, good, good. Instead of being shocked, Dao Lord Hatred was delighted and nodded repeatedly. "Among the current Dharma characteristic paragons, you're the only one worthy of me fighting. Desolate Marshal, you came at the right time. You still want to kill me?" Two divine lights burst forth from Su Zimo's eyes in a domineering manner. He stood up slowly and his black hair swayed without any wind. An extremely terrifying aura burst forth from his body, as though a divine being was awakening. A terrifying and majestic aura surged over like a tsunami towards Dao Lord Hatred. Su Zimo founded the martial Dao and imparted martial arts to all living beings. Thereafter, he entered the Dharma characteristic and everyone paid their respects to him. He had long accumulated a force that no one could match. If it was any other Dharma characteristic Dao Lord, they might not even have the courage to attack Su Zimo. At that moment, Dao Lord Hatred was motionless in the face of the situation as Fiend Chi spewed out from his body. The negative emotions of hatred and vengeance were released completely, matching Su Zimo's aura. The two monster incarnates of the Dharma characteristic realm had finally collided. "Hurry, retreat." Yen Beichen already knew that this battle was inevitable and hurriedly brought Qin Pi and ran out of the wooden house. The moment the two of them left, the wooden house disintegrated into dust against the auras of the two monster incarnates, Su Zimo and Dao Lord Hatred. "Desolate Marshal, I'll show you what a true monster incarnate is today." Dao Lord Hatred reared his head and howled into the skies. The fiend saber in his hands buzzed and trembled, emitting a pitch-black fiend chi that was cold and dark. This is the Hatred Fiend Saber and it was the personal weapon of the Fiend Emperor Hatred. However, the power of this saber has diminished significantly with the passing of the Fiend Emperor Hatred. Dao Lord Hatred said, "But I'll make this Fiend saber regain its fiendish might of the past. Desolate Marshal, it's your honor to die to it." Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. It was no wonder why he felt his heart skip a beat from that Fiend saber. It was the personal Fiend saber of the Fiend Emperor Hatred. That Fiend saber was way too terrifying. Up till this point of Su Zimo's cultivation, that was the only weapon that caused him to feel a tinge of fear. Chapter 1245, Essence Spirit Fight. Chapter 1245, Essence Spirit Fight. With a slap, Su Zimo took out the Mystic Magnet Mountain from his storage bag and smashed it towards Dao Lord Hatred. As Su Zimo entered the Dharma characteristic realm, his Dharmic powers increased exponentially. By now, the Mystic Magnet Mountain was 1,000 feet tall and it descended from the skies like a 100-story building with a huge shadow. The only reason why Su Zimo summoned the Mystic Magnet Mountain right away was to hold back the Fiend's saber. Mystic Magnet Mountain. Dao Lord Hatred's gaze intensified as he recognized the ancient unique treasure right away. This is a great treasure. Unfortunately, you must be dreaming if you think that you can hold back my Fiend's saber with this Mystic Magnet Mountain. His arm trembled and his Fiend's saber released streams of pitch-black Fiend chi. They surged towards the Mystic Magnet Mountain above him with immense hatred. Before the Mystic Magnet Mountain descended, the entire mountain was already shrouded by the Fiend chi and its glow dimmed instantly. By cultivating the Hatred Sutra, one could condense a unique Fiend chi of hatred that contained extremely strong negative emotions. It was ever-changing and could destroy Dharmic weapons with ease with torrential Fiend might. Thankfully, the Mystic Magnet Mountain was an ancient unique treasure. If it was any other ordinary Dharmic weapon, it would have been destroyed by the Hatred Fiend chi. Swash! Dao Lord Hatred strode forward and swung the Fiend saber in his hands. Fiend chi burst forth and a gigantic pitch-black Fiend saber condensed in midair, descending from the skies. Before the Fiend saber even slashed down, all sorts of negative emotions surged and affected Su Zimo's Dao heart. Su Zimo praised internally. It was no wonder why the Hatred Sutra was the #1 Fiend Sutra of the ancient era. That Fiend chi could affect a cultivator's mind and heart. If one's Dao heart was not steady, they would not be able to last long against the shroud of the Hatred Fiend chi, let alone fight against Dao Lord Hatred. However, the person Dao Lord Hatred was facing was Su Zimo. This was Dao Lord Desolate Marshal who had received more than 30 ancient inheritances and deduced the martial Dao with experience accumulated over 5,000 years. His Dao heart was absolutely indestructible against fire, water or even heaven and earth. Even if the ancient Fiend Emperor was the one here personally, he might not be able to shake Su Zimo's Dao heart, let alone Dao Lord Hatred. Shoo! Suddenly, a green beam of light shot out from Su Zimo's glabella and spun in midair, emitting a green glow. The Creation Green Lotus. The Grade 6 Creation Green Lotus of the past had lost its stem and leaves, leaving only this lotus platform. Although it was no longer as enigmatic as before, this lotus platform was still incomparably strong. Under the channeling of Su Zimo's essence spirit, the Creation Lotus platform spun and blossomed slowly. 54 white lotus petals opened up and mist rose with a resplendent glow. Clang! The Fiend's saber collided heavily against the Creation Lotus platform. The Creation Lotus platform trembled gently. Su Zimo focused his gaze. Although the Creation Lotus platform blocked the attack, it was slightly disadvantaged in this clash. Since it was not a complete Creation Green Lotus, the Creation Lotus platform could not defend against this shocking ancient Fiend saber. I can't waste time with him. Su Zimo judged the situation instantly. It was difficult for the Hatred Fiend saber to suppress the Creation Lotus platform within a short period of time. However, if things dragged on and the Creation Lotus platform was completely tainted by the Hatred Fiend chi, it would most likely be rendered immobile like the Mystic Magnet Mountain. Su Zimo's eyes flashed coldly. A green glow burst forth from the Creation Lotus platform and emitted a boundless sharpness, forming a green sword instantly. This was a killing technique targeted at the essence spirit, Green Lotus Sword. Slay! Su Zimo pointed forward and hollered softly, "Instant thunder!" Through the endless void, the Green Lotus Sword descended instantly and stabbed towards Dao Lord Hatred's glabella. It's an essence spirit secret skill. Dao Lord Hatred's expression changed slightly. He felt a strong sense of danger from that green sword. He had never felt this way ever since he obtained the Hatred Sutra. Even when he was defeated by Yen Beichen previously, he was only defeated by half a move. It was completely impossible for Yen Beichen to kill him. But now that green sword could threaten his life. Devouring Fiend Cave. A powerful spirit consciousness fluctuation burst forth from his glabella and formed a pitch-black fiend cave in front of his forehead. The center of the fiend cave caved in continuously, as though it could suck in everything in the world. Poof. The green lotus sword pierced right in and disappeared before long, entering the pitch-black fiend cave. There was a slight pause. Boom. The fiend cave exploded. 54 green lotus seeds fell and were already dim. Dao Lord Hatred released an Essence Spirit secret skill and blocked the green lotus sword completely without suffering any damage. That green lotus sword could even kill conjoint body mighty figures. However, Dao Lord Hatred's combat strength was even more terrifying than most conjoint body mighty figures. The only person who could defend against the green lotus sword unscathed with an Essence Spirit secret skill was the past monster incarnate of the immortal sects, Diin. With a thought, Su Zimo controlled the Creation Lotus platform and put away the 54 green lotus seeds. If those green lotus seeds were exposed to the Hatred Fiend Chi, they would be destroyed after a long time. After returning to the Creation Lotus platform to nourish themselves, the Fiend Chi could be cleansed from them and they would be revitalized. I've long heard that Desolate Martial possesses a universal utmost treasure. Now that I'm seeing it for myself, it truly lives up to its reputation. Dao Lord Hatred grinned and said in extreme disdain, "However, you're truly way too naive to think that you can injure me with such methods." "Is that so?" Expressionlessly, Su Zimo lowered his gaze and said coldly, "Take another attack from me then." A bedazzling golden light shone from his glabella and his terrifying spirit consciousness condensed rapidly, forming a golden swastika symbol. The entire void trembled when the ancient word descended. A series of sacred Sanskrit sounds seemed to echo from the firmaments. At that moment, the fiend chi around Dao Lord Hatred was significantly suppressed. Rulai Dharmic Seal. The Essence Spirit secret skill recorded in the Great Day Rulai Sutra was extremely terrifying and took a huge toll on one's essence spirit. Back then, Su Zimo killed the titular disciple of Malevolent Earth sect with this Essence Spirit secret skill. Another Essence Spirit secret skill. Sensing the terror of that word, Dao Lord Hatred's lips twitched viciously. In a fight between cultivators, even if it was a life and death battle, they would not release their Essence Spirit secret skills right away. After all, a fight between Essence Spirits was extremely dangerous, and even if one won many times, it would be easy for their Essence Spirits to be injured. However, Su Zimo released Essence Spirit secret skills after a single round of exchanging blows. Furthermore, he released 2 of them in succession. He did not even condense any heaven and earth Dharma characteristic. He wanted to kill his opponent's Essence Spirit directly. The moment the 2 of them exchanged blows, they did not test the waters and released killing moves one after another, revealing their trump cards. Sensing Su Zimo's killing intent, Dao Lord Hatred was even more enraged and his hatred deepened. He channeled the Hatred Sutra and the Fiend Chi within his body surged out, purging away the descending golden light instantly. Hatred slash. Suddenly, a Fiend saber condensed from spirit consciousness flew out from Dao Lord Hatred's glabella. Similar to the Fiend saber in his hands, it slashed towards the swastika symbol that was flying over. Dao Lord Hatred released his second Essence Spirit secret skill as well. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.